the miners need to upgrade their equipment. So basically, it's kind of like an infrastructure upgrade, but there is also social and psychological reasons, right? People are aware of this halving. Um, they kind of get excited about it. So there are a lot of things that align during this time, and they create this basically this FOMO. Also, human beings like cycles. We are cycle creatures, right? We are very strongly associated with the day cycle, right? Like a human activity. Even with the it was more so, when we didn't have electricity, but even with electricity, you can see these very precisely daily cycles, but then there are yearly cycles. It's not by chance a lot of events are happening every 4 years, like the Olympics or elections, because it's not too long of a period, it's not too short. If you make it too long, then okay, we have a president for the last 10 years, it's not good, right? If it is only 2 years, there is not enough time to do anything in these 2 years. So it's kind of, I don't think it's by chance that people have chosen these 4 years in many different things, right? The Olympics, the elections, the World Cup. I'm sure there are other things that are happening every 4 years. And the halving, of course, has been chosen by Satoshi, but it's a good choice, right? Because it's not too long, it's not too short. Something that human beings can comprehend. That it's a good chunk of our uh, life, but at the same time, it's short enough where you can have many of these events. Um, so yeah, and then there are these liquidity cycles that are also happening in similar timescales, but not exactly, right? For example, there is a cycle, these owl cycles, that is 65 months, that is more like 5 years. Um, and so they all interact, but when you have clocks that are not exactly oscillating, have the same periodicity, just a second, uh, then they interact with each other, but all kind of interesting things are happening. We have like a um, beating phenomena. That means like, there are also oscillations that are happening at the difference between these two clocks or the sum of these two clocks. There are all kind of interesting patterns. So it will be interesting to study at a certain point when I have a chance. I started, right, because I started to create a liquidity model, but is where I'm going next. Basically, this is my full-time job, to continue this research and bring in scientific understanding, to this, to Bitcoin, where the majority of people are doing things that are, kind of almost hand waving or the equivalent of astrology. But yeah, so
Yeah.
these are, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just chuckling a little bit at the astrology comment.
Yeah. So what is
I
going?
would like to add,
Yeah.
though, what you're saying, makes me think about another feature of all that, too, is that human nature tends to, we like to synchronize our periodicity no matter what it is. So I feel like things like, Satoshi choosing the halving to be during an election year for a primary election in the United States, I feel like there's a reason behind that. Yeah. And there may be
Yeah.
other reasons periodicities end up syncing up. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And sometimes, it doesn't have to be, it's not like Satoshi thought about everything, but he was or he is a human being or a group of human beings. And people think, of course we are all different, but the things that make us similar are much, much more than the things that are different, right? We do behave like hurts many times. So a lot of these behaviors that we see in Bitcoin are due to this hurting behavior, right? And we know we are humans, so we know things that are also important to other humans, so they are common to other humans. So it doesn't have to be always that Satoshi did certain choices because he was aware of them. It could be kind of unconscious, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can,
Exactly.
right, exactly, yeah. So and then things synchronize by themselves, like you say, because in general, not just human beings, but any system that interacts. And humans, again, that is another misconception. We think that we are so different from other things, like, around us, different physical phenomena, maybe even animals, etc. We are not. Sure, there are certain things that they make us different. Like we have awareness, we have consciousness, and so at times we do things that are different, and they um, separate from the rest of the reality, let's say, but we still are part of reality, right? And we are obliged. We don't have a choice. We have to follow the laws of physics and law of time, all kind of things like this. And so we do behave like physical systems. Humans do behave complicated ones, but see, there is also all this theory that many people are not aware of. A complicated system many times they show very simple relationships. And the book Scale talks about that. When you look at them at the right way, then beyond all the complexity, there is some simple organizing principle, right? Like, for example, when he mentioned um, physiology and is talking about metabolism and mass, the fact that there is that Kleber's law, right, that says metabolism is proportional to the mass of the animal to the 3/4, is something that works across so many different sizes of the animal, different lifestyles, different environment. There's animals that fly, animals that are herbivores, animals that are carnivores, and all of them follow this principle. So beyond all the complexity of metabolism, and metabolism is one of the most complex things that we know of, how an animal extract energy from food and so on. And though it follows, when you look at all the different animals over a very huge range of scales, they follow this organizing principle. It is incredible. It's just incredible. Anyway, so how all this applies to Bitcoin, right? So I think independently from the election, yes, in one end it's very good, right? Because um, I think we will see a lot of things happening that are going to be good for the space. Like we are going to see much. It's not that all the resistance will disappear, because unfortunately they didn't let Warren, so she's going to continue. Like, I'm sorry if I use the bad word in Italy. We talk like that all the time. We will say she's breaking our balls, right? She will continue to break our balls, but her power is going to be much less, right? Because she will not have a very good environment in which to push these anti-crypto ideas, right? And anti-Bitcoin ideas. And so that will be good, and it will be interesting to see what happens in the next 4 years. Now, I think people exaggerate the influence of that, because it's not that we don't know. In Kennedy's in the administration, Kennedy speech. I don't know if you were there, but I was at the conference in Nashville, and the talk that Kennedy gave, he was a still candidate, so basically was at the same level theoretically than Trump, right? But of course, everybody knew that whatever Trump said was more relevant, because at least there is a chance that he's going to implement it. And we will have to see, because Trump says a lot of things, and not necessarily he will follow through. We will have to see. I don't believe any politician, so I want to see them doing what they say they are going to do before believing anything. But if you had to take at face value what Kennedy was saying, probably that is the talk that a president will do when we reach $100 trillion. When we reach $100 trillion, Bitcoin will be so powerful and so big that a candidate with a real chance to be elected, maybe even a sitting president, will do that kind of talk. because it was incredibly. It was a talk about a real Bitcoiner, somebody that really understands Bitcoin completely, and it was obvious that he had a very, very good, deep knowledge of all the issues related to Bitcoin, from self-custody to how it relates to other crypto, everything. It was amazing. Then, there was Trump. There was a good talk, but not that good, because it was clear that he didn't understand what is the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. It didn't seem that he was taking it too seriously. Of course, he went to the conference, so it was amazing as at least one of the steps we need to see in the history of Bitcoin until basically becomes the world currency, right? But we are not there yet. So I think it's still it's exactly what is needed at this particular point where we are. It doesn't break anything. It doesn't push Bitcoin away from the power law. It's just one other thing that confirms that we are on the right path. At least so far. We will see if there are other pieces of evidence that show that something radically different is happening right now. So I will say we continue to stay on the power law. I don't see anything different. So all these are good signs. And it will be very interesting, and we will continue to monitor what is going to be relevant for us in the next basically year, because if you study the cycle, so let's look at that, right? Let's look where we are, because it's what we say that we were going to do today. So let's see where we are in terms of everything. So I have this graph. By the way, I'm going to it should be a separate indicator because I don't think it will be easy to take one of our indicators. And I will try to have all these little, um, titles and labels, so you can actually, it's something that you can open at any time. Hopefully it will be available in the next few days. I will try to push it. I think that maybe this is where I can try to push a few at once. What happens is that when I do a new indicator, it needs to be approved by TradingView. They are looking at if people, making stupid indicators. In particular, when you make it like invite only, you need to go through a approval process. Takes usually a few days. Funny thing, if they never tell you, oh, this is okay, it's the other way around. If something doesn't go right, they block it. Otherwise, after 4 or 5, 10 days, you can assume that it went through the process. I wish they say it is approved. But anyway, so I think this is cool. So what I already explained this in the past, but I don't know if everybody follow. But let me do it again. So basically, I take the upper one, right? This is the same indicator that we call the power law band, right? So I take exactly the same indicator, and now I cut, basically I go back from wherever we are, which is today, right? This is where we are today here. And then I go back 4 years, exactly 4 years, like 365 days. That, there are people who say, oh, the cycle is 3.67 years, Okay, maybe an average, right? But it doesn't make sense to use like an average. Let's use what we know the time is. And some people use blocks. The problem with blocks is that, these 10 minutes blocks where in average are supposed to be 10 minutes, but it's just an average. So there is really the halving happens not every 4 years, but after a certain number of blocks that are close. If they were 10 minutes each, if the blocks were 10 minutes each, it will be exactly 4 years. But they are never 10 minutes, and so it comes close to 4 years, but not exactly. But I'm trying to use human time because I think after having looked at all the charts, etc., is that really the cycle responds to human time and not block time. And the two are close enough, but that is what I'm choosing here. It's a simplification because we are not trying to get this information, where the bottom is, where the top is, to the day, right? If we are within 1 or 2 months, it's already amazing as a kind of a prediction that we can do years ahead. So that is the level of precision that we are trying to get. So I want to compare the different cycles. So what did I do? I go from whatever day is today, I go backwards 4 years, and then I basically imagine in this case, okay, where that 4 years will be. So if it is today is the 11th, right? What is happening? Yeah, sorry. Today is the 8th, not the 11th, so the 8th. I go back to November 8th, right? So November 8th of 4 years ago, it will be 20, right? Because it's 24, so it will be November 20. I go all the way October, November 8th. So kind of here, right? 3, 13, yeah, kind of here, there. And you see, at that time, the the price was crossing the power law. Really interesting, right? So it was one more confirmation that it usually. Now, what do we use as a convention for the starting of the power law? Here I kind of draw these because in our human time calendar, that corresponds to the end of the year. So I'm using the end of the year as a kind of a landmark, because if there is some uncertainty in the other cycle, I'm using that as, okay, seems that the bull market always starts around that time. And there is not really a definition maybe we can come up with, but the entire idea is that it looks like we are leaving the power law, right? We stay on the power law is basically where this region of this full model is flat and parallel to the power law. I did a bunch of calculations that show that we spend about 56% of the time in this area. In fact, actually, in a narrow area around here, that is another indicator. Basically, I was able to separate all these dots. So the process is where you start with the general trend, you subtract the price, and you get an oscillator, right? Because it's now that in theory, if it was only the power law and there was noise around the power law, you subtract the power law, it should look like noise, that just complete random, and it doesn't, right? Because there are basically the bubbles. There are bubbles. It's almost like a second signal. It's a signal on top of a signal. The main signal is the power law, and then there is a second signal that is the bubbles. It's a kind of a periodic signal, almost like a sine wave. And so if you subtract the power law, you still get the oscillations, right? And we have all these oscillators where the indicators, what we call the oscillators, right, where you actually can see them. But I did this game where I randomized, basically, I scrambled all the different, it's called residuals, what is left after you subtract the power law. I scramble the residuals to make it look like noise, and then you could still see patterns because you're still dealing with the signal. It's not that now you're made it noise simply by randomizing it. There is still a signal, and the signal now is much more statistical instead of being organized in times. And what you see is two lines, two like dotted lines, it's all these dots that kind of cluster around two regions. And one is a region when we are above the power law, and one is a region where below the power law. That means most of the time, the price tends to be in that region. That is something in between for these 2 years, right? So it looks like this, where we spent 2 years along the power law. It's in between, kind of in between the support line and the middle power law. So most of the time we spend
Mm.
there statistically. That is really interesting. And then as you move away, in both
Some significant
directions, is less likely that the price is there. Um, Here, for example, this region where the price has been right now, it's a little bit far away from the middle, where most of the time the price should be. And same thing happens when we are above, right? That again, there is kind of like a line that it's more or less in the middle between, like a line that is very, very far away. It's not exactly the peak, but relatively away from the middle. Then there is a line there. That is where most of the time we spend most of the time there. I don't know if it is the most useful way of representing the data, but we can make an indicator out of it. It's kind of interesting. But to me, I think the most interesting part is really to understand timing. So that indicator will be doing away with timing. Beside, saying there are two major regimes. There is a regime when we are along the power law, and there is a regime where we are in the bubble. But I don't know how people can deny that it's there, because has been there from the beginning of the history of Bitcoin. Maybe you can debate that maybe the first 4 years, but we had a bubble here, that was not exactly like the others, because it didn't happen where the others are happening. Um, but maybe because there was no the halving, maybe a bubble appeared anyway, because it's part of how Bitcoin works and is to have some periodic bubbles. But because we didn't have the halving yet, it didn't get synchronized, like you say, right? Then the bubble started to be synchronized to the halving.
Yeah.
Uh,
To me, it almost looks as if that first bubble, where, it goes down to the bottom after the bubble, it looks like that section was just a little bit of an overreaction and that it should have sloped a little more gently to that lower peak. You know what I mean?
right,
Like an
exactly.
anomaly. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's just me eyeballing it with my math
No,
experience. I don't know if there's anything to it or not. Yeah.
it's a good intuition, and also it was much easier to move a market where Bitcoin was $30 at the peak, right? When it started, actually the bubble was it was less than $1 when the bubble started. It's like crazy, right? It's completely different environment from what we have right now. So I treat this as an anomaly, but we need to understand it better, how it fits with everything else. But once we started to have the halvings, halvings actually, sorry, uh, we we started to see bubbles that were kind of synchronized with them, right? So it didn't happen exactly at the halving event, but happened. They happened usually 6 months later or something like that, right? Um, and um, when they start, and then they go up for about 1 year. They go up for 1 year, and the regularity is so clear, right? It's just see, this is what I like to do. I like to do simple things, because you start to make them more complicated, you lose the plot. And here the plot is so simple, right? There is like 2 years where we move along the power law, we stay most of the time below the power law. This is about 60% of the data point, by the way. And then we spend 2 years in this regime, um, and this is about 40% of a data points, and we go up for 1 year, and then we go down for 1 year. It's such a clear and nice picture, and that's been so much part of Bitcoin history. Basically, if you exclude these first few years, it's 80% of Bitcoin history. So I don't see how people can say, oh, we're not going to have cycles, unless we have evidence. Given all the evidence that we have, you can make that claim. People have made it before, and they were wrong. So we will keep an eye open, and we will see if there is evidence that we are going through a cycle, when when the time will come, and we reach the peak, and this is where the theory says we are supposed to have a peak, and we don't see sign that. There will be sign. There will be a lot of sign. This is why we have 9 indicators. They're all aligned to tell us something is going to happen soon. And here I made an alternative, like Plan C proposal, that, because I don't even know what he was trying to say, because in one end he was saying, oh, we will continue to go along the power law. Well, if you continue to go up through this exponential pattern, you're not going to follow the power law. You're going to break the power law. So that will be a break of the power law. To continue the power law, we need to go down. We need to go down to support. You cannot have both, unless he meant that at a certain point we reach certain point, and then we continue to. He didn't mean anything. Like
It
in
doesn't
one
make
end is.
sense. Yeah, he said like it would go up and then like potentially go sideways. That's not how markets move, but I don't.
Yeah.
It hopes
But
and
I mean,
dreams. It's the bull market hopium.
Can I
Bitcoin's
ask a
going
it's,
up
question
forever, kind
not
of thing.
related to the math?
Saving,
About the plan. I'm sorry, go
just a
ahead.
second. Let me say something to Saving Face. Saving Face, can you record the session?
Yeah, I started. Sorry, I was late. But I started it
No, no
as
problem.
yeah.
Eventually we'll have. I know it right, but show me how you do it. So I don't have to bother you, but I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when
no
you
problem.
come. It's a way of making you come to these meetings. No, I'm kidding. I like when you're around. Anyway, so but don't feel obligated, and just show me how to do it. But yeah, so I mean, look, whatever Bitcoin does, right? That is the entire point. We are not forcing. We are all students of Bitcoin. We are trying to understand Bitcoin. It's an important part of our life. In my case, is my life. This is what I do from morning to evening. Is my job. Um, and whatever Bitcoin does. But right now, my attitude, and this is really paid off. All the discovery that I made, all the different things I learned it because I listen to Bitcoin. I say, look, I'm not going to impose my own ideas. I'm going to see what Bitcoin does and learn from it. Whatever data Bitcoin gives me, I'm trying to understand what is happening. So this is why, I'm not ideologically against ideas of scarcity, for example, and things like that. It's just that there is no sign of that with Bitcoin. When you look at the data, there is no sign that scarcity plays a role. So if that is what happens, why we need to believe otherwise and impose our belief? If Bitcoin breaks the cycle pattern or even the power law, then you see these tools are still good because we can compare before and after. We can compare what Bitcoin has done, because there is absolutely no doubt that Bitcoin has done what we are describing here. This is 16 years of Bitcoin history. Right now, it's basically almost, we are close to 16 years. 16 years of Bitcoin history. Bitcoin has done this. There is no doubt, there is no discussion, there is no interpretation. It's so simple and so regular that, okay, there are few debates, like there is this person called Leo, at least online, Leo Hart. This is online name. I I debate with him a little bit, but in general, kind of respect his work because it's not exactly what like he's good. He has good tools and understanding. Fact, he's basing everything on the power law. And then he has a model for the cycles that are a little bit different from mine. Basically, what he's doing, he came up with a clever way of including actually this first bubble. The way to do it is to include one more parameters. You can fit anything if you include more and more parameters. The purple line, remember, it's a formula, but it's amazing that we can actually write a formula. It's not like and drawing these by adapting some. It's like it's a formula. It's a one single formula that you can write on a piece of paper, and it tries to describe Bitcoin behavior. It is crazy, right? That we can write one single formula, not just for the general trend, but actually for the bottom, for the top. It's unbelievable, you know. And he did something similar, where he has also included the first bubble, and you do it by modifying. So basically, you're making, instead of making the period of a bubble, so that for me it's 4 years straight. In this case, it's a function. It's a function of time, and so it kind of stretches almost like with an elastic band of a period. And I was surprised because it kind of reproduces the result, and it indeed it's not perfect because you will get something like, imagine I have a big bump that covers almost everything. So it doesn't start at the beginning, almost like cover the entire 4 years before we had the first cycle. But it looks bumpy, and is um, kind of synchronized somehow to the first bubble. And so it's a way of including the first bubble to say, okay, the first bubble was not an anomaly, was part of these oscillations. Okay, it's an hypothesis. I think it's the problem with introducing more and more variables, that at a certain point you can fit almost anything with more and more variables. That is, it's actually a mathematical theorem that you add more and more variables to this, it's called a Taylor expansion. You can fit even noise. You can fit every single little bump, but the problem, once you do it, then you cannot extrapolate it really to the future, because it's just like a snapshot of what is going on right now. It doesn't catch some kind of constant pattern that you think that will be repeated in the future, right? So it's a signal tends to be repeated in the future. This is how you can make predictions. And noise is not, because it's local. And a huge big part of trying to understand data from a scientific point of view is identifying the signal and the noise, extracting the signal from the noise. But in fact, that was 50% of my dissertation for my PhD. I'm actually it's mostly like an engineering topic, but because some physicists are in between physicists and engineers, and I did a dissertation was kind of half theoretical and half practical, because of working with this detector of gravitational waves. And basically, my entire career has been all focused on understanding signals, and they did it in astrophysics, they did it in neuroscience. Same thing, right? In neuroscience, there are a lot of periodic signals, there is a lot of noise that you have to extract. But what is noise? Like when other neuroscience come in and say, "Oh, to me this is a signal. I am interested in this component of the brain signals." But to me, that is noise because I'm interested in something else, right? Um, when I was working in astrophysics on these detectors, was a lot of thermal noise. Like you could even see. Just tell you this funny story. One time, this was like a very very early gravitational wave detectors. Gravitational waves are these deformations in space and time that travel at the speed of light. Basically, it's like when there are these huge big events in space, like a black hole merging with another black hole, or a star exploding. They create like waves. Like imagine it's almost like it's a ocean, but instead of the water vibrating or air vibrating, like in the case of sound, it's space and time itself. It vibrates. Can you imagine? And then we are trying to catch these vibrations here on Earth. It is like when I enter the field, nobody ever saw one of these gravitational waves ever.
Mm-hmm.
Einstein predicted them in 1915, And when he wrote the paper, he said, humanity will never see them. It's an interesting thing from a theoretical point of view that there are these things, but humanity will never. He actually said that because he was in 1915. He should never have said that. Technology goes, to incredible places, and after basically 100 years, we were able to do it. And it happened like a few years ago when basically I left the field and they won the Nobel Prize. Usually the Nobel Prize is awarded several years after you did some important discovery, but I think they awarded the year after that we did the discovery. It was pretty quickly because it was considered such kind of a breakthrough, like one of first time that we saw in all history of mankind this kind of a phenomena. And my dissertation was about that. We actually had like a old generation type of detector. These ones are like huge big owls, like 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers, where they use lasers, to measure very tiny changes in the structure of space and time. We were using, when I did it, they were building nearby, like 10 miles from where I was. That I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We were building the detector. This is why I ended up there, because I wanted to work in this field. And 10 miles away in this little town, they were building this huge big facility, like $500 million facility. There is another one in Washington State. And but we had like a whole generation one. It was like a bar, like aluminum bar that is kept under vacuum. It's like 1 ton bar, like 1 meter long. And now it's in a museum. It's not used anymore. But at the time we were actually working. It's so funny that I worked on a device that now is in a museum. But we were looking at the formation of these bars. Um, that could be created by these waves, because everything when the wave goes through, even you get stretch and squeeze, stretch and squeeze, by these gravitational waves. The table, the bed, everything get stretch and squeeze by very, very, very minute amounts, like the 1,000th of a nucleus of an atom. Can you imagine how small deviations? We are trying to see these deviations, these small little deviations. Can you imagine? But everything else was noise, because can you imagine all the other things that can stretch this aluminum bar? Yes, we kept it under vacuum. We froze it at very, very low temperature, because when you freeze, you eliminate most of the time you don't see it, but if you hold a pen in front of you, that pen is being stretched and squeezed, stretched and squeezed. By what? By the heat in the environment. The heat in the environment, you cannot see it, but if you could zoom in, you will see that is stretching and squeezing whatever object you hold, even yourself, right? You are not a fixed size. You're vibrating because of the heat around that you are producing yourself, but also in the environment and everything. And so that we had to eliminate that noise. We use shock absorbers to eliminate the vibration from the outside, or at least reduce them, like very, very sophisticated shock absorbers.
What are they made out of? That's cool.
Like springs, like a different type of very powerful springs, like kind of like shock absorber in a car, but imagine with the best materials, the best engineering, and then we put like fluid inside it, it really, really sophisticated, and everything was suspended. This 1 ton bar was suspended by one single cable, like in perfect balance. Can you imagine? And then everything under vacuum, like a big thermos, basically, to isolate it from the environment. And we kept it at the temperature of liquid helium, so like hundreds of degrees below zero, and so it was all frozen. And then we had like a little amplifier that actually was a quantum mechanical amplifier. It's called a squid, that basically it's like transforming the vibration of the object into electrical signals, right? That you can monitor then and try to see if you see anything. Like we calculated if it was very narrow range of sensitivity. The one in that we have right now, we have a much broader range of frequency. Right now, with ours was kind of synchronized. It was kind of a resonant frequency of a bar. We made it, we choose the material, the size, and the length in such a way that if you hit it with a hammer, you will hear like a sound, and that sound at the same frequency of what the theory say and supernova explosion will be. So if it was a star exploding the galaxy, when it explodes, it vibrates at that particular frequency. Um, it is around 1,000 oscillations per second. And so we kind of synchronize it where we were hoping to see this big, huge spike if it was some star exploding in our galaxy. We could not go beyond our galaxy, but if something happened in our galaxy, we could see it. And my professor that spent like 40 years in physics, uh, and he was one of the pioneers. He built this thing in the 60s. He never saw anything. He spent his entire career just watching at noise. So I'm trying to teach you something about noise. And my entire graduate career, my graduate school career, and because they hired me immediately as a research assistant, I didn't have to pay anything for my studies because I was working in the lab. I was just watching noise all day long. But we were creating like fake signals and see if we could catch it. And the way you do it when you have something periodic, it is kind of what I did here because I'm using a lot of the same techniques. What you do if you have something periodic, you take a chunk of the data. Let's say you take you're thinking that you're going to see something at a certain periodicity, right? Let's say 100 hertz, right? So 100 oscillation per second. So you take the whatever that time is, like 1/100 seconds, and then you sum all these little chunks, sum. You superimpose them, and what happened, because signal noise is all random, the noise cancel each other. And the signal, because if you're doing it in the right way, where you're superimposing chunk of the same signal, imagine you're taking one entire period of a sine wave, the peak is where they are all aligned, the throws are all aligned, so they kind of sum up together, right? And over time, you should be able to see that the signal disappears. So if I have a chance sometime, I will make a video of that. And the signal, this noise disappear, becomes smaller and smaller, and you start to see these sine waves. In the beginning, a very noisy sine wave, and then actually see the sine wave. So there are all this technique to extract the signal from the noise, and this is one of the things I'm trying to do here. These are, for example, imagine I sum all these guys, right? All these chunks where we see these bubble oscillations. They are not perfectly aligned, but if you are summing, you should start to see a signal that is basically the shape of an average bubble. Now here, unfortunately, we have only 3. If we add hundreds, you will see a very, very, very clear signal that will be the kind of the average signal. And even if you were not able to see because there was a lot of noise, more and more of this period you're summing, more clear of a signal you will see. It is really, really cool. So I'm using some of these techniques, and when I did it, I was able to determine how precise the peak is, how precise the bottom is. One of the things you see, for example, if you do it in that way, that the second, you see how we had the 2 peaks in the last cycle. Well, it will be kind of, one could say, right? We could say, well, I'm choosing the first one to be my real peak. And for example, Leo does that because for some reason his technique doesn't work. He is not able to include the first bubble if he chooses the second peak. And that is, it's kind of forcing it, because to me, it looks like the other peaks are all aligned, right? There is a very precise periodicity. But because we have so few, one could concede and say, okay, maybe you are right. Maybe that was the real peak, and there is some, kind of distortion there is some kind of a reduction of the length of the cycles. It's an interpretation. To me, it looks very forced one because you're introducing a new variable and I don't see even a pattern because, for example, if the second cycle peak was in between the first and the third one, then you could make that case that they are shifting towards, the period is becoming smaller. But I don't see that. I don't see that pattern at all. What I see is that we had a double peak for whatever reason, and it can happen. Look at even the first cycle had a first peak. It was smaller, so we don't pay attention. But look how we actually had a first peak here. And so in fact actually seems very similar to this peak here. This peak and this peak are similar. So why don't we make a big deal about this one? Because probably it was smaller, right? We don't think about this like a real peak. But this was a double peak, it can happen. Probably was some, we had a COVID year. There was a big injection of liquidity and people got excited, and so we got a premature peak, and then Bitcoin needed to have a peak where it usually has because it follows these cycles in a very precise manner, and it did. And so to me, that is the current interpretation. Now, given that we have
Can I interject in, sir?
Sure, of course. Yeah, just go ahead.
Just thinking about those peaks, how they look a little bit different. To me, they still kind of say the exact same thing because, like, if you think about the energy of people's buying power going into it, from the in the top example, you see more of a gradual slope before you get to that wider peak, and in the bottom, to me, it's the same thing because even though it didn't gradually go up, it stayed low below the trend line at the bottom.
Right.
And then shot up. I'm talking about the first peak.
This one?
So it stayed below your trend line just a little bit there and then shot up relatively quickly. Now, to me,
Yeah.
it's the same thing as the other example because
Right.
their net energy is about the same. In the bottom. In the bottom there, the energy stayed dormant until the last moment. In the top example, the energy had a gradual release.
Exactly.
But,
If
the
anything,
effect
this
is
one
the
is
same.
the
So I don't
oddball.
think there's really any difference to them at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to me, the most scientific way of doing it simply say, okay, look, to me, it seems that there is a very precise periodicity, is about 2 years, and, the last 2 years total. Roughly, I can use the kind of the end of the year because you want to look for something that is common to all of them. And what is common to all of them is that they seem to happen at the end of the year. I'm going to use that, and then I'm going to 1 year on both sides, and I'm going to kind of average out these data. And if you do it, and I did it, at a certain point, I'm going to work on a website where you guys can go and you can find all my work because I'm doing almost every day I'm doing something, and you can find it maybe in organized pages, and you can see it. And because I'm posting it randomly on X, but it should be all organized in one place. But I did this thing where I average out all these guys exactly like I did when I was studying these waves that I told you about, because these are, it's kind of other. It's not that whatever scientists do has to be always the right way. It's just that, they tried many things for many years, and usually many people converge towards what seems to work well. You can always come up with a new idea, a new method, but you always should start with the conventional ones. And this is a very conventional way of doing it. And so you have it, and they did, and you can actually see a wave. You can see a wave, that is the average behavior of these 3 waves. And they kind of peak more or less at the same time. In fact, what happened, you can even calculate uncertainty levels, because once you have noise, you create uncertainty. And it turns out that the least uncertainty in doing this averaging is at the peak and at the bottom. That is really cool because that gives us a confidence when we say the top is somewhere, it should be somewhere. Same thing with the
M-
bottom. That are the two places where we have at
May
least
I ask you?
uncertainty. Yeah,
May I ask you another question about that, sir?
absolutely.
Um,
Just go ahead and ask quick question. This is why we are having this session.
well, I,
And
you know, I'm new here, so I don't know how or when to interject and when it's appropriate. You know, I don't want to be rude and interrupt. So I do apologize
You
if
gotta
I'm
interrupt him,
interjecting
man.
wrongly.
You just gotta interrupt
Okay,
yeah,
him.
okay,
we,
okay.
we do the Italian way, that is talking over each.
Very good. Then you're my people. You guys are my
And
people. I
I am not
appreciate
Sir.
it.
The Queen didn't make me Sir yet. I hope one day she does. But I'm Giovanni. Or you can call me Sir Giovanni. I'm just
Sergio,
kidding.
yes, Sir Giovanni. All right, all right. Well, anyway, back when I first, was exposed to your ideas, I was just perusing Twitter, and in your posts, I engage with you, telling you about how I want to relearn all this math and start from the bottom. So as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about how do I come up with the same thing that you came up with, and in talks about this periodicity and stuff. In my mind, what I came up. I just want to ask you this to make sure I'm understanding correctly and following along correctly. So in my mind, I thought, well, if I took a sine wave, right, and I assigned, just like in your talk yesterday, you talked about like different resolutions of time scale. So in my mind, I thought if I were to, programmatically test every single time scale starting from the smallest, and the way I would do it would be, start with a time scale of a minute or a day, it doesn't matter. I would take that and then pick the zero starting point, at every slice within that time scale, leaving, the periodicity the same. But like basically, if the period was one, then I would test iteratively, starting from zero and then moving forward all the way to one. And what I would do in that test is, use something like that Granger causality you talked about to figure out what the minimum of the averages are, right? So I would basically take my sine wave. I would add or subtract the Bitcoin data away from it, and I would figure out where that data had the biggest gaps, not fitting with the sine wave, and where that data had the net along the whole way, the smallest gaps, right? So the most fitting average, right? Is that the right way to think about all this?
Yeah, and DM me too. And I will try to, because I like writing, like write me down your idea and send me a DM.
Yes, sir.
And then we can also try to see how we can do that through ChatGPT, because I want more people to do things like this. And ChatGPT allows you to do a lot of this analysis without you knowing much about coding or mathematics or whatever. So if you're interested, we could try also to interact with ChatGPT, because then we can create prompts that other people can also play
Oh yeah.
around, because that is one thing that now everybody has available. That you can play with ChatGPT and tell it more or less what you have in mind, and then ChatGPT. Not always, right? You have to kind of look at the code, see what you did, but first of all, you learn how to code, and second, you can explore a lot of these ideas. Yeah. So yeah, there is so much to be explored, um, and there are so many regularities in Bitcoin. Probably there are other oscillations that we are not showing right now, that are
Well,
there, at a different level, different time scales.
going one step further with it, say I did all of that testing and then I found, the wave that most closely fit the Bitcoin pattern, which is what you did. I would then see, the minimum differences averaging out really, really well. For example, in the second bubble, you
Hmm.
see that it spends a lot of time in the bubble below the wave, but just like my analogy about the energy about the first and third bubble, the second bubble also fits that, even though it doesn't look the same as the other two, just because it spent so much of the energy remaining above the wave afterwards. If you really just look at the space between the two, the surface area of that really would match.
Yeah. Also
Yeah.
because, I mean, I use a sine wave here, right? But probably that is not a good representation, because what really, in particular for this pattern here, that was one of the most regular, they are all very exponential-like. They grow up in an exponential fashion. It's more complicated, but if you had to
Oh,
simplify,
okay.
it looks like an exponential. So it goes exponentially up and then
Hmm.
exponentially down. Um, and I don't know if it is but it's a periodic thing that happened. The sine wave was easy to plot because it's periodic, and so it's naturally periodic. You can just write, because I remember I'm trying to write one single equation that kind of reproduces the behavior. So sine wave is kind of an easy way of doing that. Um, of course, it's a
Right. It's
modified
not a
sine
perfect
wave.
sine wave. It's just,
It's
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. The real data is complicated, but it's more like it's almost like what is called a Gaussian, right? That is basically like a bell curve. The bell curve many times are represented like this, but it's really like it's like an exponential going up and then an exponential going down. It's actually the square of exponential. Um, so I don't know what is the correct shape for something like this, but we can try to come up with this a shape that comes closest to
I
this.
would be interested, if not today, at a time more appropriate, to go through the process of how you find, or to,
Sure.
how you explore finding those shapes. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I found that the shapes that go down, and it doesn't seem like that because see, for example, there is this huge big drop here, then there is another drop here. But in general, if you start from the top and you go close to the bottom, these decays are very, very regular, and they are almost perfect exponentials. And not just that, you can see even with your eyes, right? Because in a graph like this, where we take the log of the y-axis and we keep the x-axis linear, anything that looks like a straight line, it's an exponential. In fact, just visually, that is one of the things we do in science. When we look for an exponential, we use this log linear chart. And anything that looks like an exponential, a straight line, it's an exponential. You see? Look at this. So I'm drawing this here. But you can, of course, it's not perfect, right? I mean, it's not perfect, but it kind of fits, right? You see, it kind of fits whatever the peak is. And let's
Yeah.
say it's
Yeah. I see what you're saying. It's like
uh,
the
it's
delta on there is pretty regular at that moment. Yeah.
yeah, and these, so one can measure the slope of this thing and determine what it is. Um, and there will be some kind of change in price, right? You can do it in terms of also deviations from the power law or whatever, but even just straight as change in price relatively to change in time, right? It's about 1 year to go there, but you see how closely to a straight line. Of course, right, data is always messy. It's not going to be ever a perfect straight line, but you come close, right? And if you do the same thing here, you will see another straight line. Now this probably will have to exclude this jump, because now if you include the jump is slightly different, but if you don't include the jump and you go only from here to there, you see how they are parallel? They look parallel, right? They look very much parallel. You see? You agree? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 And you do the third one, and again, I'm going kind of like here. And this one kind of lasted a little bit longer. Okay. But look at this, parallel, parallel, parallel. These are all parallel. And that means that the decay, the rate of decay, was very, very similar. In fact, I calculated it's about 0.22% a day. So when we, at least so far, every time we go down in the same fashion, 0.22% a day. Which is really, really interesting. I don't know. We will have to see, because if it happens again, then there is another regularity about Bitcoin that within find before. That needs to be understood. Now when we go up, it's actually different. It's much steeper in the beginning. Maybe we should choose another color, orange, blue. When we go up, it's much steeper for the first time. It's a little bit less steep. You see how the slope changes dramatically.
You
And
can
again, here,
you can double click on the line and then go to the settings and add the angle if you wanted to. So like yeah, you any
Yeah,
yep
double
you
click
can
right onto it. Yep.
yep
okay,
and then
and
angle
percent change maybe.
From the bottom.
down yeah closer to the bottom.
Angle, okay.
Yeah, and when you move that, it should tell you. Yeah, click OK. See how it gives you the
Oh,
angle.
cool. 47. Yeah, very nice. And so we can do these settings, angle. Why didn't do it?
Uh,
Okay, yeah, I need to over it. Yeah,
oh,
35. This is 47. And then let's do these angle. Yeah,
But
this is pretty
always
cool.
show.
And
If you
23.
click always show, it'll stay on.
Oh, okay.
Double click. Yeah.
Settings.
And then right at the
Always show.
bottom. Yep, right there.
This one. Yeah, you see I know it takes time, right, to go through all these discussions. This is why we do this meeting for 3 hours. But I don't mind because I want to understand these things in depth. So this one is 35, this one is 47, this is 23. And we can even convert it like there was a percent change. We can see how percent change looks like. But you see how they are basically decreasing, right? They are slowing down, while these ones are very constant. Let's try to do these ones. Always show shot, angle. Okay, so this was minus 16, right? It's minus because it's going down. Angle. This minus 15, right? And this is settings, angle, show shot. And it's minus 16.63. You see, it's crazy. In fact, maybe if we do it, yeah, if we go all the way here, it starts to be very really steep. But if we exclude this guy, or maybe, yeah, even if we extend it, let's extend it all the way here. Okay, so this event, they're all similar drops, very similar drops, similar angle, and even
Well
similar
within
time.
margin of error for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. While these ones, so we go very, very fast up, and then we go down in a very precise pattern. I mean, he did it 3 times. Is that something that means something? These are the things that I'm doing every day. I'm trying to understand. And this is not technical analysis. People draw lines. This is more scientific way of doing it because you're saying there is a pattern, there is a certain change in the data. It follows a particular mathematical structure. There is something there that is meaningful. So it's something that needs to be understood. But I mean, to me, right now, the cycles are so integral component of what Bitcoin is doing every single time that I'm not ready to give it up, and I don't know why people want to give it up, because actually from a practical point of view is what we are trying to use to do the things that we say we want to do, like trying to sell some of our Bitcoin at the top and buy back at the bottom, or do other things like the options we were discussing about, or many other possible things that we can do when we are in that region. Right now we don't have to worry too much, but I don't know if there is anything that we can do, because in theory we could buy options 1 year ahead. It's something that we could explore. I don't know if it is worthwhile to think so far ahead, but and it's and it's something that I want to explore myself. Is does it make sense to, because if we know that the price is going down, maybe we want to do something 1 year ahead of time, but when we are going close to the top, we want to get ready for the time when we are going down, right? And there are people, so I was telling you, first of all, I made an entire three hour videos. I don't know if you watch it, but about the bubbles in general. We are exploring more things today along that topic, but I explain, you know, um, why the bubbles will continue, why they're important, why there is no indications that we are now following the bubbles. And to me, they are still a fundamental part of understanding Bitcoin. When we have indications that we don't see bubbles anymore, so now we will know. Well, few ways. So first of all, how do we know that we are having a bubble? So right now, for example, if we are looking at the data right now, so there are different ways, right? One is the timing. We know that the timing is never perfect, right? And the top, it's easier to identify, right? And of course, it's easier after it happened, because when you are there and you're close to it, you're not sure 100%, right? And this way the timing will help us, because it will be one of the confluent type of signals that we are going to have that say, look, it's kind of a time, the price starts to correct itself. We have the other indicators like the deviations indicators, etc. We have a Hurst coefficient, all the different indicators that we have will converge and say everything makes it look like we are having a crash soon, and it doesn't have to be that particular day. It needs to be kind of a region, where in that region we start to take some actions, to protect our interest, because if we, like, for example, the current prediction, right? And again, I was discussing this with the brain. It's called the Bitcoin Brain Trust. It's Fred, the Plancy, all the other analysts. We have like a chat where we discuss, and they were giving me a little bit of pushback in terms of don't make these predictions. The bubble have nothing to do with the power law, and I don't agree. I think they are interconnected somehow, and there is a lot of theoretical work. And at a certain point, I want to actually to introduce this work to you guys. Is this physicist called Sornet? He found out that actually, if you come very close to where like few months before the peak, and it's something that we need to explore together. He's saying that if you look, you see, actually it starts not to be look like a straight line anymore, right? It becomes actually a power law. It start to become a power law when you were coming close to the peak, like a couple of months before. And you see how you see that little bumps there? We will have to zoom in really a lot to see that, but let's try to do that. And it's the next level, like yesterday I was talking about the enlightenment levels, like in that meme, different levels of understanding. This is like probably one of the most ultimate, and I want to see if we can include it as actually one further indicator. But in his theory, he's saying, and I don't know which time scale we'll need to use, days or hours or whatever, but as you come close to this peak, you start to see these oscillations. And these oscillations are a demonstration of instability in the system. It's basically herding behavior. People start to do buying and selling, buying, selling, faster and faster. And so basically the time in between these peaks became smaller and smaller and smaller. And you can fit a function that will look like, at a certain point, it vibrates almost at like infinite frequency. And so you can actually extrapolate it, and you can predict where the peak is. And he has actually wrote a paper where he shows he didn't do it for the last because the paper came out after, I think it came out in 18 or something like that. So it was after the second bubble, um, and he was able to show that these, in fact, even included the anomalous one, this one. So you see, even here you see these oscillations, and he has like a mathematical formula to actually fit it. I will have to show you the papers like in the next, as we come closer uh, to the um, peak. I will We will start to talk more about the work of this physicist. But he has a model where he can fit these oscillations, and then something like a couple of months before, for sure weeks, on the order of weeks, he can tell you if we are coming closer and closer to a crash. Um, and so it's a very powerful method that I want to include as one of our tools because he was able to show that it worked. He actually predicted the crash of the Nikkei, predicted the crash of the SP 500. He made a lot of money. It's not just a theoretical thing. He actually became a multimillionaire using this approach. So it will be a really cool method to use. But so this is to tell that there are relationship between power laws and oscillations. In this case, I think with Bitcoin, it's an overall power law, and then the bubble are this kind of other type of critical phenomena. There is an entire name for this type of science. It's called critical phenomena. And because usually power law associated with the criticality, when something is ready, like you push it a little bit in one direction, like things like avalanches. Um, yeah, avalanche is a perfect example. Everything is just so charged and so ready, right? But you push it, like you just scream, you go to a mountain
Hmm.
and you scream, and all of a sudden all this snow starts to fall down, like tons and tons of snow, because it's basically like the straw that broke the camel's back. You are reaching to this point where one small little change can produce a large, large change. And I think the bubbles are exactly that. That usually is also called meta stability, where usually things are relatively stable along with power law, and then under certain circumstances where everything comes together, pushes the system out away from equilibrium. But then once it goes too far away from equilibrium, it wants to go back to equilibrium. And this is
It's
what,
just like a chemical. If I was a chemist in school, it's just like a chemical reaction. If you
yeah,
look at a pKa when a chemical goes back and forth, especially
yeah,
a reaction that goes back periodically. For example, that gas experiment where you put like lighter fluid inside of a thin channel tube or like a half tube, and you light that lighter fluid, and that
yeah,
that tube goes around in a circle, right? That experiment shows that the excitement of the gas that's being burnt when you light it has a certain amount of time before there's enough vapor above the lighter fluid again for that gas to reignite to continue the cycle. It's
mhm,
very analogous to this.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's very interesting. Yeah.
And in fact, actually, is a very good example that I maybe can use, to in one of my videos or something, because again, it is exactly the type of phenomena where you will see it's a critical phenomena, right? Where you're there
Yeah.
are basically they are formed when there are many things that are working at many different levels. It's very fractal type of, because there are all these chemicals that are working at a different level of density, and different. They are all interacting in a non-linear fashion, but then they also create some oscillations, that so the two can work together, and I think it's exactly what happens with Bitcoin. So I'm not ready to give up to this idea that the cycles are do exist. People kind of they are both scared. There are many investors, like traditional investors. I don't know if scare is the right word, but maybe it is. They're almost
Larry.
scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, like or skeptical or whatever, because they are so used investment that are so erratic, right? That there is nothing to predict, there is nothing to rely on. It's all basically this idea of market efficiency. That if there is any particular pattern, people will have already used it, and the pattern will have disappeared. But with Bitcoin, it's different because it doesn't work like it. These patterns are there because it's mostly noise, and then maybe there is a little bit of organization, and then people are aware of that organization and it disappears, because they kind of act on it, and there's creating an opposite force to it, and it cancels. But with Bitcoin, these patterns are so powerful, like you cannot really fight the overall power law. There is no way, because it comes from the interaction of so many different players at many different levels, from the individual investor to also what happens with the media, all these feedbacks that are amplify themselves, because it's not just a social, it's not just an investment, it's not just an asset. Look at us, right? We are spending the last almost 2 hours discussing these things. We will not do it with something else. We are doing it because we have a passion for Bitcoin. We are an interest. It's a big part of our life. We are trying to understand it. It's something unique, so for some people it's almost like a philosophy or a religion. It's much more beyond than just being an asset, and this is why it behaves in a different way. It has all this regularity and all these patterns. So even people that are able to accept the power law, like Fred, when they push back about the cycles, they don't like the cycle for some reason. They think the cycles are not going to continue. And this is, it's, I respect him. It's a philosophical difference between us. My approach is, until I see strong evidence that we are not going to have cycles, I'm going to work under the assumptions that the cycles are there. Of course, we're not going to do these without awareness. We are going to have our eyes open, and say, okay, is everything aligning in such a way that we still think that we are going down? When the time comes, we will have all these tools and other tools, like I just mentioned. They are called log periodic power laws. That this Sornet, his name is Sornet, he's a physicist, French physicist. That he started with geophysics, and then he was developing this tool to understand earthquakes, and then he applied the same math that he was able to apply to earthquakes to actually stock markets, and he found out they behave in a very similar way. The same type of equation, and these oscillations were becoming faster and faster. So that will be another tool that we can use to indicate that, okay, we are very close to a crash. It will take. It's a little bit more. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Giovanni. Yeah, hi. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm in Europe.
No.
In Scotland. I'm ex investment banker, options trader, and these days, I spend my 100% of my time, like you, trading Bitcoin, also Solana and some others, but mainly Bitcoin. I mean, I really love your work. I went back to first principles as well, just took all the historic closes of Bitcoin and just derived almost exactly the same formula as you, with the logarithms and everything, and the power. And my question is, do you, because I day trade the market, I look at the market all the time. Any of your, obviously I subscribe to your to the channel and through Patreon, and are there any indicators that we can use for more short-term trading? Day trading or shorter. I understand that the power law that we're looking at here, and we've got the target, 200K, around maybe October next year and everything. But is there anything that we can use more for more short-term trading, would you say?
So I'm working with this group of people. I'm not yet in a position to let everybody know. Um, and if you don't mind, before I answer your question, I want to share this paper with you guys because we are going to develop an indicator around this too. This will be mostly to confirm that we're close to a crash, okay? And if you guys have a chance, look at this paper.
Oh, yeah.
Just posted it in the um, and there is like a free version, like a archive. Chrome. The only problem when I click on it, let me see if I can find the link. Copy link, send your device. Yeah, when I click on it, it gives me my PDF. What can I do? To share with you because you will not be able to see. Maybe this. Yeah, I think this one. Okay, let me share with you. It's called "Are Bitcoin Bubble Predictable?" And it's really cool. It's a really cool article.
2019?
Huh? I'm putting it in the
Yeah. It
on the
was
chat.
written in 2019, like 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And so we should do the new analysis. I want to do the new analysis of the last bubble to see if also that follow the same pattern, and then we should prepare for the next one and have a tool. We will make it like an indicator for us. It doesn't predict only the major bubble. In theory, predicts also in between bubbles, and not just bubbles, even when we go up, when the anti-bubble. So we should make a tool. It's a very computational intensive, so I don't know if we can make a trading view, but we can make a website where people from the group can go and we can do kind of like a monitoring of these events, that are determined by this method. I have already the code. It's just that we need to run it on a consistent way and give it like an update. We can run it maybe like every few days, and then we can update. But yeah, to answer your question, that is one of the holy grail, and I'm also working myself on some possible indicators like that. But at the moment, I'm pretty happy because I have a collaboration with a group of traders, and they develop this very, very good strategy that it's not yet let's say something that is super predictive, because my desire is always to make something predictive. I even wrote at a certain point I wrote a manifesto for trading, because I had the company that I have, Quantonomy, that is actually where you associated with the YouTube channel. It's supposed to be like a trading company, and we were at a certain point we had this we were trading on the normal stock market, and I wrote this manifesto saying I don't want to use anything that is not predictive. All our tools needs to be predictive, and in fact almost all these things that we have are predictive, right? But it's not always easy to do that, and so there is one other tool that you can, or idea that you can apply, that right now is really working very well for me. And I can show you the results. And the idea is very simple. It's not predictive, it's reactive. So I will be very resisting to this idea if it was not that I think is the only one that is not predictive, that is actually good, and what it is. So let's look at a chart, right? Imagine that every time it's basically like, and you know the terminology because you're a banker, investor banker, etc. It's basically like a martingale. So martingale will be, you're assuming that basically that it's kind of a prediction, but it's a bad prediction. You're saying basically that the future looks like the present, right? And so the idea is every time we go down, but with the price, right? Or because if you did it only when the price goes down, you will miss also opportunity. So you also do it when there is a relatively high change in price from where you are, because in that case, you will think that there is momentum type of event, right? So you choose certain percentage changes that you can determine from an average percentage changes over a day, over whatever time frame you're using, and then it buys, right? And and it doubles down. It's a very simple technique that probably you have seen done many times. Um, and so if a price goes down, you double down, where you're buying more, right? And then if the price continues to go down, you buy even more, and buying more, and you do it using futures. So I don't know if you're interested in using futures, but this is what we use.
Yeah,
And you
I
do
use I can use futures or spread betting. I can lever, margin, and yeah, that's fine.
exactly. So we are using relatively small leverages, anything between 2 to 5, something like that, but nothing degen, because you don't want to be. The main goal is not to be liquidated, right? And then as we go down, we kind of, it's not necessarily double, but we have a multiplier. Now, how do we determine this multiplier? We determine by using the power law. Basically, we are saying, look, the possible worst scenario. So now, of course, you will have to have, I don't know if it is fate or logic or kind of point of reference. I think it's based on rationality, because it never happened in the history of Bitcoin that we crossed this support line. We have this very strong support line that, in fact, we think it is based uh, on the cost of producing Bitcoin. Now, if you want to be double sure, you can say, you know what, let me use a 10% below that, 15% below that. What you can choose whatever, whatever it makes you feel confident, but at least you have a point of reference that most of these systems that are there don't have, because they work in the dark. What will you use as possible worst scenario? So you're going to use these as your worst possible case scenario. You're looking at the amount that you want to invest. You're looking at because you're going to use whatever. It's a risk to keep some Bitcoin on an exchange. So in my case, I'm doing it with a fraction of what I have. I'm, of course, it will not be fun if something happened to buy it. I'm not going to do it in a stupid exchange. I'm going to do it in one of these. I think at this point it will be really difficult. Let Binance or Bybit disappear. It's not FTX. They're not doing anything crazy as far as we know, right? It can always happen. It's a risk, but it's a limited risk. So you're not going to put all your Bitcoin. Just do it with a small amount. Um, and and then you use that as your collateral. And this allows you to create a lot of positions as you go down, right? And then you're using the power law as your kind of a support, right, line, and say, look, that is my worst possible scenario. If I'm dividing all these little possible trade all the way from where I am to that line. Now, if you want to be more aggressive, you're thinking, I don't think where we are going all the way to the support line. Maybe we are going 20% above or 30. That will be a little bit more risky, but more aggressive. So it depends what you want to do. Right now, for example, I'm doing it in the most conservative way, where I'm using the support as my um, bottom line. And then, basically I'm buying when there is a correction. And if the price goes up, I'm selling without touching my Bitcoin, because it's all futures. Basically, I'm borrowing against my coins. So I don't even touch my coins, but I'm making some additional money that I can use to buy more Bitcoin. And I invested $12,000. All my positions are about $12,000, because I'm just testing it. It's something that I don't like to lose it, but I'm okay right now. And in the last 1 month and a half, I made close to $10,000. It's a really powerful technique because it's not much the idea, but it's the execution, how it's done, right? And I worked in this field of algo trading for almost 12 years now, and it's a pain to have something that really works well from an execution point of view. That it takes care of all the middle cases, all the possible things that can go wrong, and the execution of this group. They are developing even their own platform right now, not to trade, but to do the execution. It's almost impeccable. So the reason why I'm working with them is because at a certain point, we are going to enhance it and make it available to everybody. So if people want to join, this program, you can. It's not going to,
Yeah.
because it's not me that owns the company. I'm just a collaborator with them. It's relatively expensive to get involved. One idea could be, I don't know if people will be interested in that. Maybe we create a fund. We create a fund together, and then everybody contributes to the fund. And maybe we can put the fund in a public address where you can double check that the funds are not being used for anything stupid or anything like that. We are not going and buy Ferraris with it or whatever. So everything will be transparent. We will have charts, where you guys can see what the algo is doing. Something that we can discuss it as a group. Something that everybody considers
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
But
Yeah. So
yeah.
So when Ferrari, the good Italian car, or maybe Aston Martin, a good British car, So if you sort of doubled your money, you're risking 12,000, and then you make 10,000 profit, or how many are you trading intraday? Trading through the day, or because I guess
The resolution is 1 minute, but that is only the resolution for the code, and it usually does maybe 3 day every 3 days. Every 3 days, usually there is like an opportunity, but sometimes it's not fixed because it depends on the move. But so far, I made I can show you because I want to be transparent with everybody. I can show you my P&L for example. Um, I'm and I'm helping them, so it's somebody else's work, right? But I completely understand what we are doing, and actually the P&L recently has been a little bit less efficient because unfortunately we do everything through trading view. The signal that probably needs to be improved at a certain point where we need to get away from trading view, because one of the things that they did, they updated the code. Let me see if I can I, yeah, I will put it in the, so this is look at the chart. I just posted my P&L, and it should have been better recently, but
wow, that's nice and steady, not too volatile, pretty nice.
No, very smooth, right? And in TradingView did this change, and the group noticed the change, but we had to adapt it and fix it, and it took like a few days, and we are still working on it. But we are always aware. We are trying to do it to do the best possible thing. But it will be nice if everything was independent. In theory, it would be nice if we had even an exchange or something, where we could do these things. But probably, or maybe doing it on a decentralized exchange, where then you don't even risk that the exchange crashes or something. But it will evolve over time. Right now, I'm using Bybit, for example, but I don't think
Yeah.
should be pretty stable and safe. but I'm
Yeah.
not going to put all my money on Bybit. But listen, if I can put enough, and of course I need to keep on the exchange enough coins that are going to work for collateral, uh, and it's going to be more than 12,000. But the money that is risk at any time is 12,000.
Yeah.
These are my position. And you can see I did in this period I did 43 trades. So a little bit more of an maybe once a day, or once every few days. One can take the average of that.
And
Yeah, it looks very nice, right?
if yeah, very nice. Yeah, well done. If the market was trending lower rather than going up,
Yeah, exactly.
if it was a bear market, would you still be making money, you think?
Yeah, because there is with this one, right, by itself, yes, because um, there are always, like if you look at the bear market, right? Let's look at the bear market in our chart. Um, so you see, even if we go here, there are always times where the price recover itself, right? And so you will be buying down, and then if you recover itself, and we sell it. But it's a little bit more complicated, right? So this is why we just implemented of it. I say we, considering myself part of a group, but it's mostly them. But let me use the term we. I think they will not have a problem with that. We are very happy that I'm part of a group, and I will try to, look. I'm very selective. And my style, right? Where if I do something myself or I see somebody else, I will have been. In fact, they say, what they say. We were very concerned. We were very afraid to contact you because we knew that if this was garbage, you will have destroyed us. Because what I do, right? If I see something that doesn't work or people that are saying stupid things about Bitcoin, I am the first one saying, look, this is not good. They are not doing the right thing, And instead, you can see that I'm talking about them in a very, very positive way because they did an amazing job, in particular in terms of execution. Because whenever I tried before, we had code. We had exactly the same thing. We are not with Bitcoin, but with the stocks. And at some point, I do want to launch my crypto code that I will share with you guys too. We can play with it, but I had this crypto algo that made 6 times in a month, but this was during the 2017 bull run. So we should start to test it right now. It needs a lot of volatility to work, but if it works, then we can share it.
Yeah.
But it's
At the
yeah,
moment, I'm sometimes just trying to use short-term indicators, RSIs, and things, and just to see what works and on leverage
yeah.
and doing some similar things. But I just want something that's I don't know, a bit more reliable.
Robust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the problem is execution, right? Because you can have all these indicators, but when you do it, so it's different from what we are trying to do with the peak, the bottoms, because we don't have to have a perfect execution, right? When you start to do it on these very short time scales, execution is everything because you have things like fees, you have things like slippage, and they kill you. They can kill you very quickly.
Yeah.
Like for example, we had this very, very nice. So it worked in this way, right? We're the same thing that this crypto algo that I was describing before. What he did, you have many. Let's say, imagine with the stocks. We had all these stocks. We took a Nasdaq 100. We took 100 stocks, and then every day the algo will sort the stocks in terms of performance, and you can use different type of measures for performance. It could be percentage, it could be all kind of different things. And so we use these measures, and then we will organize them in terms of performance, and then we will pick. In theory, you could pick 3, 4, 5, but it turned out that if you pick the best, so actually you will pick the worst. You will pick all the worst because the idea was the worst probably tomorrow will do mean reverting. Will recover somehow, and you're buying it at a very low price, even if it recovers a little bit. And again, it's a stat game, right? Where maybe it doesn't happen every day, but in average, it should happen quite often. Uh, we were beating the market doing that. The problem is that, in particular with stock, the amount of beating the market was so small in comparison with things like, fees. There are no fees right now if you trade stocks, in particular with these automated platforms. But there is always slippage. What you don't pay in fees, you pay in slippage.
Yeah, yeah.
And
There's
you
like a lot of inefficiencies that existed until crypto came
exactly,
around. Yeah.
yeah. And so we were making money, and then we were doing okay, and it was great. We were beating almost anything that you can find in the stock market. For example, our benchmark was QQQ, and we were beating QQQ because it's a very efficient, right? ETFs.
Hmm.
And then the moment that COVID happened, and we didn't know how to deal with COVID because the algo works mostly if a market goes up, and then basically we close with. I was trying to figure out a way of making it work with the crazy market conditions, and then at a certain point I just gave up, right? And then I came back. I say I want to go back to Bitcoin because has been always my point of reference. I understand Bitcoin much better than anything else, and this is how I am here. But I do want to revisit it for the bull market because we could do the same thing with shit coins, and who cares, right? We are not going to buy them for the long term. We are buying, selling, buying, selling. And the problem with crypto is that we will choose good coins, right? Not coins that can go to zero tomorrow. If they go to zero in 3 months from now, 10 months from now, we don't care because we buy them and sell, we buy them and sell.
Hmm.
We are not married to them. But I don't know if we are going to make 6 times, but if we make 2 times or 3 times, that will be cool, right? Um, and this was relatively to Bitcoin, was not relatively to dollar, was relatively to what Bitcoin was already doing. It
And so,
was going.
and so, Gio, if you have a short-term strategy where you buy some Bitcoin on leverage, and then the market goes down, you
Yeah,
increase the position, and then it goes down again, increase the position, but then when the market turns and it goes up, then you're selling and locking in a small profit.
yeah.
How would you when you initiate the trade? What's the how much on a short-term basis? How much profit are you looking to make? 1% or 2% or something?
Yeah,
Or
exactly. Something like that. And it can be dynamic, uh, maybe based on average returns in the last few days and things like that. And
Hmm.
by the way, they just modified the code where it works also with shorts. So when we have a tier, because I told them very strongly, say, listen, you need to do things where you are aware of what is going on in the cycle, because it doesn't make sense that you're going to do, if these cycles continue, it doesn't make sense to do what you're doing when we are in these 2 years that we follow the power law, when we are in a bull market or when we are in a bear market. So you need to modify the code according to the different regimes. And they kind of agreed, and now the code can also do shorting. We're not able
oh,
to do shorting. So when we go down, and what will you use that for? Because it's a little bit more complicated. I remember the innovation is to introduce these floors, because the floor gives you a reference, right, where you can divide all these possible trades all the way to basically the floor. So the floor, when you short, I told them to use percentile because, sorry, quantile. So, and again, it's another indicator that I will share with the group. But Plan C did this very nice job, mostly using ChatGPT, but great, amazing, because if you can use ChatGPT to contribution like that is amazing. And so it's this approach where you use quantile. So you look at the entire distribution of Bitcoin, and then like the worst possible scenario, like when we went through this bubble, like I say, okay, I'm going to include even that bubble and how big the deviations were during that bubble, what will I get right now? And right, so for example, right now, where do I have a quantile? I'm going to make this a new indicator soon for you guys to see. This is the quantile one. Um, so the quantile is basically you are introducing more and more components in the distribution, right? Imagine I go from the largest deviation to the smallest deviation, right? In both sides, so the negative deviation, positive deviations. And so the first line, it will be, I don't know, 0.1%, then 5%, 10%, all the way, right? And as you go farther and farther away, the blue line is, by the way, is the power law itself. And these are like look wiggly because differently from how he did it, I did it in a adaptive fashions where I just use the data up to that point. So in the beginning, it looks a little bit more wiggly, but now we have more stats, right? So imagine we are here, and imagine we were going down here, right? During this down, during this bear market. So when we are in the bull market, we can use these or an equivalent, right? Because it's not quite the support. We can say, hey, let's make it 10% below, 20%, so it's safe, right? And for the bull market, we can use this as, sorry, for the bear market, we are using this line as our point of reference because it's almost impossible that we go there, and this bullshit of the god candles and stuff like that. Come on, is in particular when we are going down, we are not going to have a god candle, it never happened. Do you know what the god candles are these ones are when we have the bull market and we have these crazy candles here, and we have days where we go up 1%, stuff like that. That is a God candle, right? A reasonable God candle. 2%, 3%. I think we can even look what is the record that we ever had. I think 5%, 10%. I mean, that is the craziest. It's not going to be like, oh, okay, these memes like, oh, you wake up and the price is $300,000. What will you do? I'm going to sell everything because it's going to crash in 5 minutes from now, and a lot of people are going to buy thinking that, this thing continues to go up and they are going to lose everything. I mean, they are crazy. So these are the.
So Gio, in with the Bitcoin, the four year cycle, if we were in the cycle after the peak, so let's say October 2025, we think we've seen the peak. Now we think we're going to have 1 year going down. Would you initiate the trades with a short position in the bear market?
Right, exactly. And we can use this, right, this line here as our floor, because it's a kind of upside down, right? This will be your floor, where that is the worst possible case where the bull market, there is a reverting and something happens. It's almost impossible that we go there, right? In fact, actually, probably it's too conservative where you want to use this one. So this line will be the equivalent of what happens if we had the same bubble that we had all the way when the price was $30. If we had the same type of stats, we will go over there. That is almost impossible. So you divide your number of trades by this, where even if there is a worst possible case scenario, we will buy all the way there, and you will double down. Where the idea of doubling down is that it doesn't give you the bottom, but you are coming as close as possible, because when you take the average, given you are buying more as the price goes up, your average will be somewhere in between here, closer to the bottom than here. So by the time, and now, you're not going to sell where you wanted to sell, like basically buying back, right? Because there's a short. Now you will buy back somewhere. By the time you make like 2%, 3%, right? You're selling, and you're doing this over and over again, right? And this will allow you to make. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, would you you would have TradingView set up so that any indicators are giving you alerts to trade, and if so, do you have any functionality to link TradingView to an actual execution, so that it can see the trade monitor.
Yeah, yeah,
It's time to
So,
trade, and then it automatically sends an execution to the market.
yeah, and like I say, we could have done this ourselves. The problem with that, given my experience in doing it already, because I had like the same thing. I had many people following me, and at that time, of course, I was charging more because it was all automated, etc. The problem is a pain in the ass to uh, make sure, because you have an incredible responsibility. If one thing is giving an indicator that people can use and look and make decisions, and the other is making sure that the people that trust you don't lose money. It's like it's very difficult to sleep at night when that happens. I don't know
Yeah.
how these bastards did it, where they were playing with the money of other people, because I will go crazy, if I did anything like that. And in fact, I was worried about are, are they executing what they are supposed to execute? Are we dealing with slippage correctly? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? So it's a responsibility I don't want to take. I'm already contributing in helping this company, and this company took the responsibility. Probably they invested a lot of money. And I'm very happy. That if they do something stupid, we leave them, right? But so far, I'm endorsing them, like almost like they are here. We are actually inviting them in the Discord channel. I'm not introducing them yet because, first of all, I'm still getting data. I want to make sure they are doing everything they are doing. I meet with them on a weekly basis, and so far they have my full endorsement. In such way that they consider me part of a group. And so when we are ready, that hopefully is going to be in the next. They told me they want to wait until their execution platform is ready, because right now how we are doing it through TradingView. So all the signal are we have this algorithm that runs on TradingView, and then it creates alerts, and then we have an execution. I don't want to mention what is the execution platform that we are using, and that execution platform connects to the exchange. They told me not to mention it because they are developing their own. And their own execution platform will be ready in December. And so if they do all these things and they take care, and so far, beside this problem with TradingView, but it was a TradingView problem. I know because I deal with TradingView myself. It was a day where everybody was freaking out to say we cannot see the liquidity indicator. They changed something in the code, and instead of telling you ahead of time, guys, we will have this update, make sure, because I will do it ahead of time, right? So there is a smooth experience. They tell you later, or you have to find out yourself, that we just made a change. I don't know. I love TradingView, but sometimes we have strong limitations, right? One day it will be nice if I can run the code completely out of TradingView, like in their own, because you can run it in Python. I don't know why they have to use TradingView. So right now, it's linked to that. But beside that little temporary problem, and I didn't have any problem. It's like amazing. I go to sleep, I wake up, $300 that day. And I mean, for some people, it's not a big money. For other people, it's a lot, right? And I told you, I'm using just $12,000 position, so it's a relatively small position. You could go more than that, right? Put 50,000, put 100,000. The only risk, everything is risky, right? Of course.
Yeah.
If there is a God candle, then we get liquidated. But maybe we can also, they do have protections, they do have stop losses and so etc. So you don't have to use the entire position. Maybe you will lose some. You made 20,000 in the last few months, and now you're losing 2,000. Okay, it's not a big deal, right? So all risk can always be managed. All risk can always be managed. If you don't do stupid things that are completely degen, this is when people lose a lot of money. They feel overconfident and they create unrepair positions. They buy stupid coins and then they lose everything. It's all about risk management. If you do a good risk management, then it should be okay. The entire lesson here is that there is too much volatility in Bitcoin to be ignored, right? It's not just with bubbles, but almost like every single day, there is so much volatility where you can make a lot of money. And then if your goal is to buy more Bitcoin, you can use to buy more Bitcoin and increase your Bitcoin position because you're making money in both ways, right? Because we can also adjust. So right now, everything is in Bitcoin because you want to be everything in Bitcoin. I can adjust. You can do that also algorithmically because this should be our goal. We want to do as much as we can through an algorithm instead of doing it manually. But imagine as we climb, we change our position, right, that we are using as a collateral. We are not touching it, but we are going from owning Bitcoin to owning more USDT. You want to do it 10%, 20%, 30%. So as we climb, we can start to rebalance our portfolio and at the same time making more money by doing this. It's kind of a form of DCA, right? This DCA that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
And we can buy more Bitcoin. And I mean, I don't know what else you want from a system, right? That does all
Right. I
these
mean,
things.
that's the goal, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
I found
So,
in 2021, I made a lot of money on Bitcoin and others, but then lost a lot of it when the market crashed again. So I think this time using
exactly.
power law, using all this stuff, then the idea is to make money, but then not to be too greedy and take it off the table when we're after it's going up, and be a bit more disciplined. And yeah, that's the plan.
Exactly. It's all about discipline and making a plan. Now, if we can do it with an algo, that takes a lot of the psychology out of the table because the psychology is going to be essential here. For sure, what I'm describing will not work without an algo, but if we can even do the DCAing of a collateral, right? In this way, that will be fantastic. Now, if you have a big sum outside, in a cold wallet, then probably you will have to bring it to an exchange, sell it. Can you? I never tried to do that. Can you trade directly from some of these cold storage devices? No, probably you cannot, right? Can you connect
Yeah.
either to? You
I
can.
mean, yeah, you can trade on MetaMask or something, like a decentralized
Hot
MetaMask,
wallet.
or you on Uniswap or something, or
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think you can trade straight from your cold storage device, but you can definitely do it from a hot wallet. What he's talking about.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you can bring it back to the cold storage. But yeah, so I I'm trying to work all these things out. Like ideally, it will be better if we can do it all automated, because that is one of the obstacles, to try to fight your own psychology. And if we have an algorithm that can do this for us, it will be ideal. And this company will be ideal for that. So there is the problem of the cold storage, but even there, maybe can give us alerts and say, listen, it's time. You can send us an email and say, hey, it's time to reduce your balance in Bitcoin because the price went up to this level. So sell some. And you can maybe put some initial values like, okay, I would like to only to do this with 20% of my assets, or I want to do only for 10%, 5%, whatever it is. And then it will give you alerts, maybe through email or something to let you know that you have to do it. Now, if you keep something on exchange because you want to do some of these adaptive DCA, then that can be taken care of automatically because again, we can have an algorithm because you need to have some collateral, right, to allow to do these leverage trades, and we can do it where it changes also the balance of the collateral, where you go more and more towards USDT as we go to the top. So
Giovanni, one question. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt.
no problem.
Regarding the collateral? Well, because there is also the option of inverse perpetuals, and then you actually get paid in the actual coin you put as collateral. But that's
Yes.
kind of yeah, because you earn when you sell, you earn in USDT or in the same coin.
Yeah, right now I think I get USDT, but you're right. I could tell, and then I buy the Bitcoin myself. But you're right. You
Mm-hmm.
could get the
The same
earnings or the
coin.
gains, in the same
Yeah.
coin,
Which
in the coin.
is the idea during a bull run, is to keep everything in
Yeah,
coins.
I should do that. Actually, thank you to remind me. I
But
should do that.
but in the margin, I like the margin side of it, because you actually kind of borrow money to buy the coin, but actually when you sell, they pay you in USDT, because you have to give back what you lended.
Right.
So yeah. One little question: what do you think about using derivative data to trade? Because I've seen a pattern that anytime there is a negative funding rate and liquidation is usually a bottom. And actually with saving phase, we kind of did an indicator, and it's pretty accurate, and it shows all the bottoms. But you have to be very patient, because it doesn't happen often. It happens like every 2-3 months.
Sure. Anything that works, let me know, and we can. If you made an indicator, did you share it with the group or not yet, or what? I didn't follow
Some
it
of it's in the
developing.
group. I
Yeah,
had
you don't have to if
oh,
you don't want
I
to.
don't care. Um,
You know, I really like indicators like that, like your bottom line for the power law, because I believe you said you think the mining fees might have something to do with creating it. That
Right.
and like the negative liquidity indicator, those are just like in my chemistry stuff. Those are just like activation energy barriers. If you know how that stuff
Right.
works, and it plays
Yeah.
really well into like the philosophy of trying to see what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about liquidity, that is the only thing that right now doesn't align because I kind of was hoping there was some little reversal here. At least it's not going down as fast as before. And I was hoping for some reversal of liquidity. So that is the only thing that it doesn't align with everything else, because everything else points to us having a bull market, right? That we are actually entered a bull market. So before we actually talk very quickly about that, right? In particular, the returns. So to conclude the idea, right, about the DCA algo. So they should be able to. They told me that they are almost finished with their platform. It should be
Mm-hmm.
probably early December. So when they finish, then I will invite them to the group. We can have a meeting like this, and you guys, and they will introduce. They will give you a presentation of what they do, and then you can join their program.
Awesome.
Probably we'll ask them to give a strong discount to everybody in the group, and maybe some additional perks to be part of the group. But there will be something that will be done through them, because they did all this work, they did all these investments, we have all these developers, probably they invested a lot of money to develop all the trading platform of execution, because really the devil is in the detail, of how you do that execution. It's like one of them. I would say the trading idea is probably 40% and the execution is 60% in terms of difficulty and so on. If you have a good execution and management of risk is really the big part of the work. So it will be great if we, and not everybody will be able to afford it, because unfortunately it's a little bit expensive, but it's a good investment. Like you will make your
How much
money.
is it? Sorry.
I'm not going to say because I want them to
Okay.
tell, but
Okay.
it's not super cheap. But And I don't right now. I don't make anything out of it. I'm helping that mostly because I want to develop something cool. They let me trade with their system, but I just think that if I had to endorse a company or group that is implementing these power law ideas and a trading system that works on a regular basis, is it? This is why I'm creating this collaboration with them.
And are you allowed to say like what does he use, or is that totally new thing they have invented
I
for
kind of
this one?
explain, right? It's actually a pretty simple idea where
Okay,
it's
thanks.
a well-known idea where basically it's a classical way of doing DCA, right? So basically when the price changes by a certain amount, in fact, you want to do it in both direction, because if a price, let's say, moves too far away from you, right, then you will lose an opportunity. So it does it both when the price goes down and when the price goes up. I mean, you open a position hoping that it continues to go up. That is one of the limitations, because it could get stuck there. No, you're not, because as the price goes down, you're continuing to buy down, and then your average is going to move down. The reason why the average is not moving down is because every time you go down, you buy more, right? You buy more, more, more. The problem is, what if you run out of money by the time you go down a lot, right? So first of all, this is why you want to do shorting when we are in the bear market instead
Okay,
of
got
doing
it.
longs. But the idea is that you will never reach that place, because you have a point of reference, and your point of reference is the power law. This is where they introduce the power law idea. Right? They say we are going to use a power law floor as our worst case scenario. So imagine I have this amount. You can calculate what will take to liquidate your position, right? You can say if
Yeah.
a price goes all the way 10%, 20% below as a safety measure, I could say I'm actually going to put 20% below that worst case scenario. Uh,
Yeah.
so okay,
That's
what?
interesting because
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
if it doesn't break the power law, basically you have enough capital to not to get liquidated, kind of.
exactly. So you are
And using deviation, using the deviation, if it goes down, you add more. If it goes up, you add less. Is that basically?
exactly,
And you're doing
and
all that programmatically? That's cool. Yeah.
all through code and all automated. It's doing, I don't do anything. I just look at my chart, and it goes up, because every
I
single
love that.
trade,
That's like a
every single
baseline
trade,
strategy. You can't fail. Yeah.
yeah, every single trade has been a winning trade. I never lost, because, you know, the only trade-off is you will have to wait a few days until the price goes up. But first of all, it should really work very well for the next year, because if we are really in a bull market, the price is going to go up anyway, right? So
Yeah.
we are going to make money on top of seeing our Bitcoin going up in value. And you're not touching your Bitcoin, because you're using it as a collateral, right? And again,
I
Haven't
see
guys
why you
found
say management is important then, because of the fees and the spread and all this, right?
yeah, they calculate everything, where you're not going to sell unless your fees are taken care, your spread is taken care. So for example, basically, I made something like around $120 per day using 12,000. I mean, you can calculate what that means. I mean, it's really good. And I think actually it's a little bit lower, because we had a couple of glitches in the beginning, etc., when we were setting up the account. Otherwise, it will be higher. But it's amazing. It's amazing that you can make that kind of money just by holding your Bitcoin. And again, I wish it could be done where we don't have to put it in an exchange. Um, so you don't want to put all your Bitcoin. You want to put like a small amount of it, right? Um, if we
Well, you
could
can
do
do
it,
it on a DEX using a wrapped Bitcoin or a smart contract. And I mean,
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
they don't hold it it's kind of locked, but through a smart contract. So once you
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the companies are able to explore that, but they should, because then you can, if we could do that, then more people will feel more confident about doing this. Because right now my thinking is, okay, I'm going to put on the exchange a little bit of my coins, where of course I will be unhappy if I lost them, but given that the exchange is pretty safe, given that it's just a small amount, I'm okay. I'm getting some Bitcoin that I will not have got if I didn't do this.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be willing to take a certain amount of risk to do it anyways. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's part
exactly.
of it, and you should be willing to take that risk to do it. If you're like you're saying, if people are so worried about having their coins on the exchange, which I mean, $12,000, that's not even, what, a quarter of a coin or something like that. Not even that. You know what
Right.
I mean? It's a very, very small amount. So you shouldn't really be that worried, in my opinion. But
you know what I do is, for example, I just put an amount, and I, if the liquidation has to be quite a good amount of percentage, but I don't put the whole capital. I keep the capital outside the exchange, and in case it's kind of reaching my liquidation area, I add capital from the outside. So that allows me not to have the full amount I should have on the exchange, but just enough to have time to keep adding in case it goes down to the liquidation area.
Yeah, very good idea. Very
But
good idea.
yeah,
Yeah, you have to be
Like a
disciplined and check.
dynamic account rebalancing, basically.
kind of, yeah. But what you think, guys, about exchanges? I mean, I don't think Binance could
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. I mean, we are not anymore, like I
yeah,
lost 35 Bitcoins on an exchange, so it should be the one most worry among all of you. But I think these are very solid exchange,
yeah,
and
they
we are
are,
not
they are.
talking about FTX. FTX was a new thing. So,
Mm.
Bybit has been around for a long, long time. There is a lot of money there. It can always happen, but I was reading the other day, in fact, somebody just posted that they closed the bank account of this guy that I don't know what he does in the space, but he's a Bitcoiner. He has some kind of crypto project, and they close his bank account. And now he needs to write a petition to get the money in that bank account. And this is, well-known bank or something. Even bank can do this. So the only safe things is the cold wallet. We know that. It beats everything, but it's always a trade-off. It's always a trade-off. And if you do it with caution and with risk management, where okay, I'm not going to put all my Bitcoin there, I think it's okay. So right now I feel okay in doing it. And yeah, it's a question of being aware and monitoring things. Uh, right now the chance that something like Bybit collapses overnight, it's probably we will see signs. Even with the FTX, there were a lot of signs. The things were going bad and so on. So just be very aware. Very open, very aware. Eventually, the solution will be to do everything through a decentralized exchange. So maybe this will happen in the future. Where we don't have to worry because it's all done through decentralized exchanges.
Sorry,
So, but
going back to the indicator.
yeah,
So you said you were using the power law as the worst case scenario, the bottom.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
let's say even if it starts trading on a bear market, would
So in
it
a
would
bear market,
survive.
then I was saying what
Yeah.
we want to use instead. It's the quantile. So we can use the quantile approach, right? And I was showing you before. Maybe you came a little bit late.
yeah, you came late.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No problem. So I have this indicator where it is. Quantile. So this is the quantile, right? Basically, what you do here, you look at the distribution of all the different deviations from the power law, and you introduce more and more of them, right? Like you start with the left side, that will be the small, the negative deviation, so towards the smallest prices. So here will be like, let's say, maybe 1%, right? So that basically capture the bottom, right? Capture all the low price. Now here, because this is an adaptive one, where I'm using the data up to that point, it looks like more wiggly in the beginning, but it's not relevant to us, right? Because we care about, because our trading view doesn't know about the future, right? At any particular point, it always uses the information up to that point. But if we go to today, we have all the information up to today, right? And so this is much more regular, you see. So this will be basically our bottom, but if we want to use something for the top, because as we go down, right, it's almost like you're upside down, right? So your ceiling becomes your floor and vice versa, right? So we could use, we don't have something as nice as the support, unfortunately, but as a substitute, we could use this quantile, because basically this quantile, that is a 95% quantile, here is where the price went up above here only 4% of the time in all the history of Bitcoin. And that it's safe, because when did it go above there? Well, here or here, So basically when the price was $30. So in other words, for the price to go there, you will need to see some kind of crazy God candle that does the same thing that it did when the
In
price
other
went.
words, so because the market cap is that much higher, it's going to take
Yeah,
a hell of a
exactly.
lot more effort, Yeah.
And it's, and you will see signs anyway, right? And I mean, this doesn't happen in one single day. And so you can take actions, maybe you can liquidate your position if you think
Oh
that
yeah, good.
there is some crazy stuff happening, but it's almost impossible, right? Just to give you an idea, for example, right now, that quantile, it's 363,000. Do you think the price goes within a few days to 363,000? Right? It's crazy, in particular if we are in a bear market. Like I projected here for the end of the year, what is going to be when we are supposed to reach the top. That top is 569,000. So to reach the top, to go to 560,000, 69,000, we will need to have the same type of performance that we had when we were $30. It is almost impossible, But
I
even
agree.
less when we go down in a bear market, right? And so we can use this as our floor. So we divide the number of trades between here to there. So it's basically impossible to be liquidated. That means that you're not going to do 10 times your money, right? But that's okay. If we make, you invest 12,000 and you make 10,000 in a couple of months, it's pretty good, and you can buy more Bitcoin. So we can do the same thing. So we can use, when we go down in the bear market, while everybody's going crazy, we make money, when we go down. Of course, we will have to have a lot of confirmation that we are going down, but we are going to work on that. We have already a lot of indicators that will tell us we are going there, liquidity, Earth, all of them. But, maybe you start to do it when you are really
Your
when
oscillator,
it's comfortable.
you think combining it with a oscillator, because the signals, cell signals are pretty sharp from
Yeah,
the oscillator you created.
right,
But
exactly.
I
Yeah,
find out sometimes it's easier like to buy signals, but it's harder to get proper cell signals.
I know.
And yeah,
Are you talking about
But
the decay oscillator?
yeah,
Yeah, I love that thing.
It's my favorite.
but I think once we look, not just that we have 9 indicators, and by the time we have a peak, we will have more. Like I told you, I want to look at that SORNet indicator, with like the article that I posted, that he says he can predict the crash like 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time. So we will have that. We will have many other things, but also we will be together, right? We will not be alone. We are going to put our heads together. We are locking all this stuff. We are going to have so much alpha in comparison with anybody else. And let them scream, let them say whatever they want. Oh yeah, we can have a good candle at any moment. Okay, whatever. So I know what I experienced. I like somebody else was saying. I remember in particular in 2017 when I was looking at my block folio at the time we had this app. I had a lot of shit coins at that time because I was less of a maxi that I am right now. And my portfolio was like exploding, it was like crazy. And I say, okay, I can retire. I can retire now. I don't have to worry ever about anything. And not just retire with, okay, yeah, okay, I can scrap. I was going to be very well. And I was under a shower. I was taking a shower thinking about all these. So it will take probably another 2 or 3 years, before maybe I want to start to liquidate some stuff because greed was talking to me. I had, the little angel and the little devil on the shoulder, and the greed devil was telling me, no, 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 look at what happened. You just made 6 times your money because I had on top of it, I had this silly algorithm. I was testing it with a small amount. Let's put everything in that 6 pair. Like, can you imagine if you can do 6 times every month? It's like, of course, this was not going to work, right? But when you are in that situation, the little greedy devil, it talks to you, and say, oh yeah, yeah,
What if?
yeah, what if, right? Let's
Mhm.
stay, let's not sell. I should have sold at least half, right? Or maybe 30% or something. And they
Yeah, I
didn't.
don't like that
And
guy. He hangs around me a lot.
yeah, exactly, right? Because I mean, what is the worst case scenario? Okay, you just made a bunch of money and you could have made more. Okay, you can always make more, right?
Hmm.
Preservation of capital should come always first. And I don't understand the auto at any cost people, because when you are there at that place and you just made for one entire year 3 times more, that this is what is supposed to happen, right? Because we can go to that volatility indicator. Okay, so you see this blue line here, the blue line, I was updating it, so it deleted all the information that I have, but I'm going to put it back. But I had an arrow indicating everything. You will get an update. I think I can put the arrow labels, right, automatically, so I don't have to update, so you know what it is. I will label everything, but see this this blue line is the return. So return, what is a return, right? The return is price today over price yesterday. And the cool way of it's cool to represent it in that way, because then you can calculate the compounded interest, right? So for example, if you want to know what you will make in a month if we continue to compound in that way, you can take that number raised to the power of 30, and then you get the value, right, of what you will get. I will try to do it automatically. I did it for 1 year. So you see here, I put a table. So when I do the next update of this volatility indicator, you will have a table here. I did it for 1 year. I'm going to do it for a month. I'm going to do it for all, maybe middle. But right now it's doing it for 1 year. You see how it's doing it for 1 year. So it's taking the Y curve, and also I can add what we get from the power law. That will be also cool to compare it. So the power law is the blue line. So if we were moving only through the power law, the blue line will tell us what the what is the return. And notice how this blue line over time goes up, right? Because in the beginning, when we started, it was much, much higher. And notice how the white line is an average, right? So an average, so the gray one is daily. It looks like noise, right? Just crazy noise. Because someday we go up. So up is when it's bigger than one, down is when below one, right? And they put the one as a yellow line there. So if it is below one, it's a losing day. If it is above one, it's a winning day. And you see, there is no pattern, or it doesn't look like any pattern when you look at daily, right? But if you start to average, you start to see patterns, right? Basically, that white line is the average. It goes up during the peaks, right? It's almost a way to identify the peaks. It goes down when we have bottoms and so on, right? It's really cool. And right now we are averaging. You can go under the bolt, and you can change this. The advantage is of making it longer. It's more stable, right? If you make it shorter, it's more about what happened recently, right? Now, when we are in the bull market, as we just see, remember when it drove at straight lines, yeah, we are going to have variations, but it's going to be pretty consistent, pretty consistent. And my prediction right now, so 90 days, this is 3 months, it's probably a good amount of averaging, right? So you don't want to have it too short or too long. 90 days, I think is okay. So we can look at what Bitcoin has done in the last 3 months, and then we can extrapolate it. And you can do it manually, or you can do it like I will have tables like that. Right now, it's doing it automatically for that is using the date of November 25. So as we go, and we are going to have less and less day, we're still compounding it to there, and it's basically telling us how much more upside we have relatively to where we are right now. So that value there is the cumulative gain, compounded gain from here to there. So 2.76. This is what is the projected value. So if we continue to do what we have done in the last 3 months, and we in the last 3 months we didn't go always up. We also went down, right? So it's an average of that. But as we go up, this value is going to stabilize. It's going to be closer and closer to a real compounded gain on a consistent basis. So this will give us a good indication. So in fact, I'm thinking, what we could do beside the multiply, we should also have a value in dollars, right? What else can we put? What else could be useful? Any suggestion? So right now it's calculating basically, this says, take whatever value you have right now, the price, that is whatever, 70, right? And multiply by 2.76. But we can ask the computer to do that for us, right? You can give us a value in number too. So we will have a value. So what do we get if we do that? If we take 76 and multiply by 2.7, right? 2 or whatever it is, we get 206,000. So this thing is going to tell us, given the behavior in the last 3 months, see, it's kind of a predictive tool because, but I will make sure of it. We get. So tell me what you think is a good idea, so we can put what we should do, so we can compare it if we only add the power law, right? The power law, what the power law says. The power law says we are doing right now 1.001 because this is the average value, right? So if we continue to follow the power law, in average, you see how the white line is oscillating around the blue line, but it's going to be much less than what we are expecting to do during the bull. Right now, for example, that value for the last 3 months is about 1.003. That is 3 times what we should do only by the power law. So if you extrapolate that to the next year, you take the power of 365. I can show you how to do it in the chat window. So basically, this is how you do it. But, we are going to do it automatically. So you don't have to. You can, but you don't have to. So you will take 1.001, take the power. Why we take the power? Because it's like I'm making 1.001. That is a cool way of writing it in like a ratio. And then you'll multiply by the gain tomorrow, that is in average 1.001, then I multiply by the day after tomorrow, and so on and so on. So basically multiply all these 1.001. So it's like taking the power, right? Because taking the power means you multiply by that amount, but in this case 365 days. You multiply by 365 times, right? And so you will do it in that way, like I show here. If you do that, you get 44. So you get 1.44, something like that. So that means 44%. So, but if we only follow the power law, we will go up after 1 year by 44%. Okay? But because we are going up right now 3 times faster, that number is close now to 1.003, you get 2.9, something like that. But yeah, so it's close to what he is telling us, probably because it's not exactly 1.003. That is what I use. Maybe it's 0.029, whatever it is. So right now the projected gain, it's 2.76, whatever we are right now, right? So that if you multiply by 76,000, we get 206,000. So yeah, I'm going to add this to the table. I'm going to add this will be part of an update that I will let you know when the update is ready. But yeah, what else any ideas of what else we could put in the table? What could be useful information?
I don't have any right now, but I'll definitely take a look at it and see if I can come up with something.
I think that would be cool to put the price, right? Because it's nice to know the multiplicative value, but if we get a top price for that value, right? Because all what he has to do is to take the price right now and multiply by that 2.76. So we can add another column to the table and will give us a predictive value. So as we go, we can kind of predict months ahead where we are going. If we continue in this way, where are we going? And usually what happens once we start to go up, it's pretty smooth ride, right? We can have up and down, but it's kind of this is why we take an average over 3 months. This average should be pretty stable once we go up. And if you want to make it even more stable, you can take longer averages. But 3 months should be good enough. And also we can compare it with what the value should be due to only the power law. So you can compare it, right? If we are outperforming or underperforming the power law. But this is what we are expecting, right, to go there. And you can see it's pretty tough, right? It's pretty tough to go much higher than that because we will have to do compounding gains, compounding returns. See, this is why I put this green line. The green line is what gives us the 200,000, and the purple line is what gives us 500,000. So we will have to kind of over or be above, kind of oscillate back and forth around the purple line to actually reach 500,000. That is, I think, pretty unlikely, that we do that. I mean, already this path here, that will bring us to about 200,000 in 1 year, because this is all what we have. This seems pretty incredible, if we can go there. So, but we have all these tools to monitor stuff. So, and hopefully soon we will have also this trading algo, from my collaboration with this group, and that will be one more tool that we have. Okay, guys, I'm kind of ready to wind it up. Oh, maybe we can talk for 1 second about liquidity. I mean, there is nothing much to say than what we already said before, but I don't know what is happening with this liquidity. I want to revisit and maybe break it down in different contributions and see if there are, maybe we're including contributions that make look like the liquidity is bad. But from what I understand, a lot of people are actually wondering about why don't we have a liquidity. Um, I don't see anybody saying we are having like an explosion in liquidity right now, while the price is moving fast up. So that is the only thing that looks out of place, because every time we had a bull run, we always had an excess in liquidity. The white line was below the purple one. So it was like a consistent pattern and was like a confirmation. So this doesn't have anything to do directly with the power law. It's not like, all the haters, this breaks. No, there's some additional information that we are looking at, because it's nice to see that the bull market they have always this additional liquidity available, and then actually we get in trouble when the liquidity runs out.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't too bullish too. But it seems like adoption is kicking in and the supply shock. But yeah, you're right. Like it was never on there.
There is no supply shock. I don't think there is a supply shock. There is the halving that is. I think right now the best way to
Could I
think
add a
about.
question?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Because I could be way off base here. I don't know. The liquidity measured here is the liquidity in the Bitcoin system, right? Not the other coin systems, or is that all crypto?
No, it's a global liquidity. So basically, I
Okay,
can show
okay.
you. I can show
Well,
you
okay.
what I'm using.
So my
Look, I'm
thought
using all
here.
these. See, I'm using all these things like a reserve repurchase agreement, the Federal Reserve, Treasury.
Are those
Yeah,
equal weighted?
It's they are weighted. I mean, they are based on how much money there is available, right? Uh, like when I transform them all in USDT, because then it's comparable. So how much money is available here is going to be different from how much money is available here, But in theory, it's possible that they do have different weight that is independent by total amount of money, because maybe this money here doesn't impact Bitcoin more than the US money, right? So that is a limitation, because yes, right now I'm simply summing them together. I'm summing like a total that is like I say, it's proportional to how much money there is, but maybe it's a mistake because, okay, yes, there is a lot of money in China, but maybe China doesn't contribute because they.
Well, yeah, the way the liquidity gets used from market to market or system to system, the relative oomph of that liquidity is gonna be variable over time because people's preferences change, right? Like
Right.
someone just mentioned now, adoption's increasing. So even though global liquidity may be in like a stagflating position right now, a bigger chunk of that is shifting towards one, corner of the ecosystem of markets, right? So how do we measure
Right.
that?
We could. There are a mathematical method to do that. So what we can do, we could calculate. There are ways to actually measure the weights. It's basically like it's kind of a multi-dimensional regression. So because mathematically you're not bound to only use 2 dimension. You can use how many dimension you want, right? You can create like a model. It's called a multivariate model. So you take all these things, and then you say find the best fitting model and there are other methods. There are methods where basically look at the different contributions and then say, look, I'm going to only, it's kind of like a dimensionality reduction method where you say, look, there are 15 things that contribute to this thing, but calculate the ones that seem to contribute most and keep only four of them, because all the other one, I don't care if one contributes 1%, I want the one
Hmm.
they
Right.
contribute up to 90%, so that simplify the analysis. Um, so there are this method. This is what I need to do next. So I'm going to improve this model by introducing this more sophisticated model. So there are a couple of methods that we could use, where we are going to select only the most contributing and then giving them an equivalent weight.
I
So
wonder
I need
I wonder if the unrealized losses has something to do with this liquidity problem, because I don't think we've been this negative since Bitcoin started back in 2008, 9, somewhere in there.
can you explain a little bit better
Yeah,
your
so
understanding?
right now, there's like, I think $550 billion worth of unrealized losses in the bank, in all banks. I believe in the
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah,
like the treasury issue and so on and so forth. Yeah.
yeah, because of how fast they raised interest rates. There's
And it kind
tons
of
of
just locked their liquidity, so now they can't earn off of it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I don't know, but basically it was less liquidity trapped, or less losses trapped, back in 2009, but it's severely more now since, because they, during the whole COVID situation, they printed a bunch of money, and then the Fed was like, "No, we're not going to cut. We're not going to raise interest rates. Don't worry about it." And then they started raising them, and it was extremely the fastest ever. And
Yeah. Right when it happened, I remember thinking to myself, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not smart enough to figure that out, but they got to do something different because the conditions that exist in that moment, it's unsustainable.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just wondering if that it's just an idea, but I just wonder if that affects them being able to really create more liquidity, if it would blow up the system somehow. I don't know. I don't know if it's related to
I,
this or not, but
yeah, we can look it up. We can look it up. Yeah.
But I mean, they did reduce the rates a little bit, no, 2 days ago or yesterday,
yeah, yeah. I think total they've done uh, 75 basis
50
points.
points. Assertive.
I mean, I
Yeah,
will
it's
be
gonna
curious to go ahead. So finish your thought. So
no, sorry, no. I think it's just gonna be released slowly. So I don't know. Well, no, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm curious to know where this money comes from, because I don't think it's only ETFs. I mean, that is the other thing. I'm going to make actually a model based only on ETF, because well, at least we can introduce it. Yeah, maybe a separate model where we have ETF alone, and so we can see what is the contribution of the ETFs um, by itself. It's going to be, as some correlation between the price and the ETF, so we can make also model. But I don't think this push back, push up, right, is all due to ETFs. ETFs are contributing, but somebody's buying a bunch of Bitcoin, so it'd be cool to know where that liquidity is coming from. But it doesn't look like the general liquidity is very coordinated right now.
Yeah,
So I
yeah, I
wonder.
agree. I'm not sure. It doesn't make sense to me either. Um, why it's not? I mean, it started to, and then all of a
I mean,
sudden,
what if we're just looking at a very large player entering the market just now,
mm,
quietly?
Yeah,
Something like
yeah,
that, maybe?
yeah,
yeah.
maybe. I mean,
That are
bricks.
that are very yeah, that are difficult thing to
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
measure.
know how to think
Right?
about it.
I mean, look, the liquidity for us has been, in the beginning, I didn't even want to look at liquidity, because my philosophy was I'm going to use only internal measures to Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Anything from the on-chain data, from the price, etc. Everything only internally, because the idea is that, yeah, okay, Bitcoin maybe plays with the side world, but in a weak way. That is the entire idea, that This is why we can beat inflation, because almost everything is moved around by inflation, and Bitcoin doesn't. Very, very limited. But when people started to tell me about liquidity and wanted to see what is the relationship, so I looked into it, because I'm looking at anything that allow us to understand Bitcoin better.
I have
And
another maybe stupid question, sir.
yeah,
Oh,
there are not stupid questions. There are good questions.
because I don't want to pretend to understand anything at all. I like to pretend I know nothing. So with the liquidity that's stacked on that line there, the global liquidity, does that include dark money? Like does that include private markets and private liquidity?
So these are the things that, and again,
I'm just wondering because maybe we're seeing another measure of liquidity from private
I mean, when
they talk about
when we
dark
talk,
money, dark trade markets. I don't know.
so
Maybe
if
some of
you
them are moving into it.
yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
up to a point, because like for example, if you look at the definition of M2, right? Um, and what
I did
M2
put
is.
on the chat like ETFs, and well, they've never been that high, even when there was the big run at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
So it might come from that, but yeah.
So M2 is a measure of money supply in an economy that includes cash, checking, and saving accounts. I don't know how they have all that information, right? I'm not an expert. I'm trying to learn myself. Um, so money market funds and other short-term deposits includes cash and checking and saving accounts, plus money market funds, saving deposits, and short deposits. Do they know? I'm sure there is things that are, like secret pools, but how big these secret pools are, right? And
Right. Yeah.
I'm
I
sure
don't know.
there are ways of tracking um, these things too, because in the end, I don't even know how they do these savings. Do they have to report, all this information somewhere? Um, it's all very rough, right? There is what is interesting, that even by using whatever we used before, we were seeing some very precise pattern, right? Like you see green here, green here, green here, right? So all this is all what we do. We came up with a relatively meaningful quantity, and then it seems to show us very consistent patterns. And now what we can see, that the pattern is not there this time, right? So this is all what we can see. Now, can we improve this measure? Yes, we can try, but like I say, I was trying to,
I was
let
just
me finish this.
spitballing
Let
maybe
me finish
different
this.
areas. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
sir.
if you don't mind, let me finish my thought on this. So it has always been a secondary measure for us. In fact, even third type of measure, third level type of measure, right? Where it's interesting, and it's a little bit worrisome, because I mean the worry is it's all FOMO and we are making a bunch of decisions, right? But it's not that we are making. It will have been much more critical if we reach the top or we reach the bottom, right? Then this is when we usually make our own most important decisions. Here, we're not making very strong decisions, right? So it's interesting, and we can keep an eye on it, but it's nothing critical, right? It's nothing critical in the sense that it's influencing our behavior by knowing that something weird is happening. It's something that needs to be understood. The worry is that, this early push is not supported by liquidity, so there will be some strong correction. But if in my case, my algorithm will buy a bunch of stuff at low price and resell it when it goes up. So it's actually going to be good for me. But in general, it's nothing that is going to stop us from what we want to do, etc. It's just something to keep an eye on, and and maybe there are, this will push us in understanding liquidity better and our place with Bitcoin. So I just posted that the chat that, there is this method, it's called principal component analysis, where we can break down the liquidity in many different components and then see which ones are the most important. So I can try to do that and see if anything changes. We should include the ETFs though, because I think they do play a role. Not as big as people think, but they do play a role. Okay, ask your question, and then I think we can wrap it up, and we can meet more often.
If anyone doesn't
Yeah.
have any other questions, I do have a question about the just going back to Bybit, because it is I live in the United States and I'm not able to access it, unfortunately. So I was wondering if there's any other alternatives.
So there is this place, and I don't think I'm telling you anything illegal because it is legal. What you can do, so the big obstacle is to create, to go through this process, right? So first of all, you can use a VPN and make look like you're coming from some other country. Or you can also open, one thing you can always do, and hopefully, I don't think I tell you anything illegal. All these things are legal and you can do it. It's just, I think it's mostly the exchanges that don't want to do business with United States. Hopefully, this administration will change things and maybe they pass law where basically right now United States is treated like if it was a third world country, because you go to Bybit and say, and this message appears and says, we are not doing business with North Korea, um, Senegal, all these crazy countries, where, all countries that have dictatorships, etc. And then United States, right? So United States is together with all these crazy countries, Somalia, so you, as a citizen, I think you have freedom, and I don't think it's illegal. So the first thing you want to do is to use a VPN. So if you ask, probably even better than a VPN, you can create a server. It doesn't cost much. Create a server in whatever, France or some other country, maybe Germany or whatever. So you create a server. There are different ways, and different companies that have servers. It costs like $20 a month, $15 a month, and then they ask you where you're opening the server, Germany, and it will look like you're doing business from Germany. You will have to use a remote PC, something to log in on your server, and now all of a sudden you are in Germany, right? And then when you go through the know your customer, right? Because we have this process called know your customer that you have to go through. Basically, they think that we do all kind of money laundering, right? All of us are doing money laundering, that is absurd and stupid, because people do money laundering using the dollar mostly, not Bitcoin. But unfortunately, there are the laws. So what you can do, you can create a digital citizenship. So let me see, digital citizenship. And I think it's one of the island, Paloa, something like that. Is that the name of the country?
I'm not sure.
I can find
Yeah,
the
Palau. Like here, it is here. So I'll give you a link. For example, Tim Draper is a citizen of Palau. It's called Palau. So, okay, here is the link. Yeah. Okay. And you can research it and get all the information. So I'm giving you just general information, but this is what I was told, that you can create a digital residency. So basically, you have um, a digital address over there in this island, and you became a citizen. I think it costs very little, like $30, $40, or something relatively small. You're helping the economy of this nice micronation, um, and you became a citizen, and now you can use that to log in and do
And that's
hey
in
what.
tandem, with using the VPN.
Yeah, I would rather use the server because the VPN sometimes gets kicked out, and like it doesn't work or whatever. So if you create a server and you say when you create a server, right? I don't know if you ever done it,
I'm
but
not sure if I understand. Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand how a server
You're
works.
basically renting a computer in say Germany. You're renting a computer, and when you log in, your IP address is connecting to Germany, and you see that, but the exchange sees you from Germany, not you from United States to Germany.
so
So
there are different places with
or
rent servers, right?
sure,
The one
sure.
I
I
like, we
actually
like one,
just read up on this yesterday. I could send you some information if you would like.
yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
I used to
So
do
the
this
one I
with
I'll
like,
prepare it and I'll send it to you tonight.
Cool, yeah, because
the one,
all of this is like new to me. So
So
the one I
I
like,
don't I
the
don't want
one
to
I,
advocate for this exchange, but there is an exchange that allows margin trading for Americans. So
yeah.
I'm looking
The
into
only
that.
problem with this that is a new one. It's not as safe as Bybit, so we can
yeah.
explore it and we can look it up.
Right,
But
exactly. Like I don't want to share it
so
yet. Yeah.
listen, do this, okay? So look at this Volter because it's I mean, you can use Amazon or whatever, right? But the one I like because it's cheap and it's not one of these other big huge companies. So use Volter here. You see,
yep, got
I
it.
gave you the link, and go through the instructions. So basically, it's almost like you're renting, like a saving face was explaining. You're renting a computer in the cloud. So it's going to look exactly like an external computer, and then there is different software. They have their own software, but you can always use uh, remote control, remote PC, remote PC. That is, you should have it in your, just
Yeah,
go
it
on
comes
there.
built into Windows.
It's a
I think
part
he
of
uses
Windows
Mac, but go
I
ahead.
use
or
a Mac.
The equivalent, whatever equivalent Mac has. I'm sure there is something like
I
that.
think
So
there is.
you need to have something that allows you to remote access another computer, right? So you will have like instructions on how to access this computer, and then it looks like this external computer that you have, like it will open in a window, and now you can move your cursor, you can open files. It's like you have two computers
Yeah,
now.
it's a
You have a
virtual
computer in,
PC. Yeah.
you have a computer inside a computer. And
Oh.
saving face, can you look at some instructions on how to do that? Maybe
Yeah,
you can
yeah. I
post
can
it.
look up some stuff. I did
Yeah,
something like this with a seed server back in the day to download movies and stuff like that.
right. And so, and now you have a computer that where you do all this stuff, and you can run whatever, right? Then it will look like when you log when you open your browser in that computer, it's like you have window inside a window, right? And then you open um, the the browser, and now you log in Bybit, and all of a sudden you don't see anymore that stupid message that say, United States is like
Mm-hmm.
Somalia, or North Korea. You are treated like a normal person, and then you start to log in and you start to create an account, but you will need this citizenship, right? So you go through the citizenship first. You get all your ID. They will have an address, like a virtual. It's like a PO box. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to have a PO box in this country. You're a citizen, so when they ask you, because you go through the verification process, right? You have to use a I think even an ID or something, right?
I think they
but
give
I don't
you
know
a
if it is
digital ID,
like
right?
a digital ID.
Yeah,
So you will have a digital ID, and then you're a citizen of this country, and you're allowed to do business with them. And not it's not illegal. It's completely legal
Yeah.
thing to do.
Yeah, it just
This is
sounds
kind of
like a
the same
lot.
stuff. It is. It is. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt because we're United States, and they like he was saying they treat it like money laundering.
But
But
you know, it's
it
a
could change
you
in
know
six
what,
months. To be
it could
That's
honest.
true.
change. But do you know why? Do you know why I think it's worth it? Because part of being a Bitcoiner is also showing the fingers to all these
That's right.
bastards. So
That's
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
you're
no,
spending.
I'm all about it. It's just I'm having
So
difficulty
it will
trying to
take.
wrap my head around it.
Yeah, try. Like everything that it's new, it seems overwhelming. Like if I told you, oh, look, a Bitcoin. Like when I talk, when I try to, the other day I was trying to orange peel these guys in this place, where I was eating burger because this is what I do all the time. I try to orange peel everybody. Somebody needs to push that power law up,
Mm.
and doing my job. And these guys were overwhelmed because I started to tell them, okay, let's go to Cash App or let's up Cash App, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to do it at home. I gave them my they sign up in my X, at all, DM me, I will guide you through. You get exposed, right? Start to read a little bit of these and see and try to do the first step. I know it sounds overwhelming, but in a few days it will be like, oh, okay, it's not that difficult. And
We
if you
can
get
chat about it
stuck,
too if you want.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that would be
Contact me,
helpful.
contact our saving phase or whoever. We are here. This is why we created this community, right? So we can all
Mm.
help each other. But I think it's an investment because you will learn about digital residency. That is a great thing to have because we can be all residents of these micronations, etc. Um,
So
that is,
that would be first to do for this process.
yeah, that will be the first step,
Yeah,
and then
yeah. If you, I mean, I would like walk through the whole process to make sure you're like understand what you're doing and
Sure.
stuff, and then start taking the steps of the process.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just
exactly.
trying to solidify
and
it in
then
my
and
mind.
then create a server.
Hmm.
It costs you only $20, and then create a Bybit account because Bybit is really cool.
It's a good
It
Yeah, I've
allows
exchange.
looked
you
at
to
it.
yeah, it allows you to use margin. So you can borrow bitcoins. Don't do anything crazy. Don't go unrepaired. Things
Mm.
like that. Don't start to go stupid. But
That's the only way to
if
do it.
you
What are you talking about?
oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But it's cool to have all these tools,
Hmm.
available to us. And then when these guys are going to make available this algorithm to us, then you are set up where you can run it.
so the
Uh,
algorithm that you're talking about connects with Bybit?
you can use Binance. I like Bybit because they
Oh.
have a good way of using margin, where basically they look for, you can use uh, anything that you have. You can use any coins. If you bought some other coins, that maybe it's not such a good
Mm.
idea, but it has a flexible way of using collateral. So
I like
it
Bybit
doesn't.
better than Binance as well.
Yeah, exactly. In fact,
Mm.
even their interface,
Yeah,
everything.
Hmm.
that's what I like. I like the UI. So
Yeah. So Bybit is good, and I think at this point, there is no guarantee because I mean I should be the first one saying do not trust exchanges. I lost literally 35 bitcoins on a fucking exchange. But this was, I did it for you guys. This way, we had to have people like me going through all that crap. For having stuff that is more stable, more more.
mm.
I hate this quick KYC. At the time we didn't do it, but maybe this is
Yeah,
what is necessary to have some stability and having some regulations and some laws. So
I
I
think
cannot tell you.
I think a lot
Yeah,
of that stuff's gonna change. I hope so.
I hope.
With this new, you know, downsizing of the government,
Mm.
yeah.
and maybe it becoming legal tender, there might actually be some U.S. exchanges
Yeah.
that it will be more accessible. But who knows if it will be in any timely matter? You know what I mean? It could be
Right.
3 years before it
Yeah.
really happens or something.
I mean, the long-term solution will be very nice, stable, efficient, you know, non-centralized exchanges, right? Decentralized exchanges. That will be a long-term solution. But right now, they are, but there is not a lot of volume. You know, there are a lot of problems. There are this. You have to be careful about these contracts. These on some they work often through these digital contracts, etc. Some of them are can be dangerous because I don't know if it ever happened to you where they send you, oh, there is this airdrop, etc. Don't ever click in one of these contracts they send you because they could be like they could have some instructions where they take everything out of you from your wallet. So it can be there is dangers there too. So, but it will become better with time. But right now, I will say this is the most practical solution to do it in this way. And I like it because, okay, now I'm a digital resident, and I can do stuff that I was not able to do it before. Fuck you.
Yep.
So, yeah. There is a nation, like a conference. What is that nation? When Yugoslavia collapsed, right? Micronation in ex-Yugoslavia. I met these guys. We were at a conference, and so there is like a little sleeve of, it's called Liberland. Check out this thing. We had a representative there, and they gave me a bunch of information. And then I forgot. I want to become a citizen of this country. It's called Liberland. Here, I'm putting the information. Free Republic of Liberland. It's a micronation that was founded in 2015. So basically, there is this piece of land, right? When they break out Yugoslavia, uh, and Yugoslavia is near to Italy. I actually grew up listening to their TV. We have this Capodistria TV, and they always showed. It was like the only one type of show. There was the partisan fighting the Nazis, because they had all these Yugoslavian partisan fighting, not just the Nazi, but also the Italian fascists, because Italy is close by. And so my dad was like a fanatic of this, everything Second World War, so we were coming around the table and eating dinner because we have this ritual in Italy. We have to have 2 times a meal sitting around the table and watching Capodistria and we were all the time the same plot. The only thing we had very cute girls, fighting because we were like Soviet, basically not Soviet but communist, right? So we had all these warrior girls, and they were always, and I was always wondering, how come we have girls fighting in the war? Supposedly this is what communists do. They treat the women the same way. But so they broke Yugoslavia, right, in many pieces. We had all these different little nations, and there was a piece of land that is really, really small, like 7 square kilometers. That is ridiculous, right? It's like, how much acres is that, right? It's like really small quantity of land. But they created a country, like a micronation, and actually their legal currency is Bitcoin. This is what these guys were telling me. That is their national currency is Bitcoin. And I don't know I think they also offer like a digital citizenship. So we should check it out. But I want to sign up because they gave me all this information. They told me that they are trying to pass a lot of regulation to support Bitcoin or different Bitcoin initiatives. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's really cool, right? With people are doing these kind of initiatives, to for freedom, right? So yeah, but right now you see how many people are actually signing up for this Palau, because one of the reasons they did it was exactly that, to go around these stupid regulations for the crypto market. But unfortunately, it's
Did you
like
do
in the
this
United States.
yourself?
No, because I don't need, first of all, I am Italian citizen, so I don't
Right.
need it. And also, we did different things with my son. We have a company in Estonia and all kind of stuff like that. So
Mm,
I don't need to do it. But
just curious.
yeah, but I'm interested in that Liberland thing for sure. And there's also Estonia offer uh, citizenship, a digital citizenship, but I'm not sure
Hmm.
why people prefer this one. This one is what many people use. Yeah, okay, it's not $20, it's $200. Okay,
Yeah, I saw that 248 or something.
yeah, but
Just
again,
one time fee.
if yeah, exactly. But it's cool because now you have a residency somewhere else, so I'm sure it can be useful for other things. It's a cool thing to have, you know. I mean, we need to see more things like this where people are doing initiatives to create situations where you have alternative from what all these suppressive government are trying to do, to us. Because I mean, what the heck,
Hmm.
Like how, for example, we have this thing where oh, you have to be an accredited investor, like only that means you have to have a network of $1 million. Like there are all these, like you cannot invest in a startup, right? Unless you're an accredited investor. What the fuck? It's like, why? You know, why? Like the government is saying, oh, only if you're rich you can invest, right? Oh, but this means that you're a sophisticated investor. No, it means that you're rich and the other people cannot become rich. It's like so limiting.
Mm.
Government should not have all these powers to control our finances, our how we use our money. It's so stupid. And when it's time to actually protect the investors, they don't do anything. They don't do anything. It's all an excuse.
Mm.
It's basically like mafia. The biggest mafia there is. I mean, I'm not against the government. We should be the government, right? But the
Yeah.
government should be as less not invasive, and it should do things good for the citizens, not to control them.
Yeah, I mean it's like doctors, there's good doctors where, if you break your arm, they could heal that, but pharmaceuticals and stuff like that, no way.
Right. Yeah. To when they start to put money before anything else, this when it comes, the problems come. But yeah, so these there are ways of doing these things legally, and this is one of the ways. So if you're going through the process, maybe you want to write some notes so other people, then we can post it, so other people maybe can follow it.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely dive in and try to research a little bit more about it because I would like to do it, but I just this is all very new to me.
Yeah, no, like always, you always put your toe in the water, right? You get familiar with things, and little by little, it start to be
Exactly.
more easy. Exactly what we did with Bitcoin.
Hmm.
It's a new concept. Okay, guys, this was cool. Let's do this more often, maybe. Next
Yes.
we can meet next week again. Um, and have a good evening.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Awesome.
we can.
Thank
Take
you,
it
The bull
easy.
Giovanni.
market start, and it will be fun for the next year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you, everybody. I
Bye,
appreciate meeting
everybody.
you all,
Yeah.
and
Good
I
night,
look
guys.
forward to learning everything I can. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye,
all right.
guys.
Bye.